Hi everyone, I hope you're doing really well. Thank you very much for joining me, really appreciate it. Sorry, my screen's the image is a little bit blurred for some reason. It's quite dark here, obviously, where I am, so I hope everyone's doing really well. I'm going to give, whilst we're waiting for the numbers to go up, just a little bit of a summary. And in fact, I'm going to go over the summary in a bit more detail in a minute, but just whilst we're waiting for the numbers to go up, those who don't know me, I think it's the 23rd today, isn't it? Or 22nd, I can't remember, 22nd or 23rd of March 2026. It's around 11:30 in the evening. I'm Gary Waterman. I'm a former UK police constable. And since 2022, I've acquired irrefutable, verifiable evidence of decades-long international government fraud. And this is where our governments around the world have been involved in creating criminal companies, fraudulent companies, where there's been no accountability and liability, there's been no verification, and they've still got a system of fraud in place where criminal organizations are third party verifying criminal organizations' details and telling the government that they verified those details. There's still no accountability and liability. And because there's no accountability and liability, this gives them free rein to launder money from the masses. In other words, steal money through tax and other financial institutions and use that money in ways that they want to. And this is all deliberate by our governments. And this deliberately has facilitated international conflicts, terrorism, drug trafficking, crimes against children, which is a massive, massive part of this. And it's becoming very, very clear now that right the way through my evidence, I'm finding the connections to the blood of the children. So this is what we're going to be talking about a little bit more tonight, and what that could mean, and what I am almost coming to the conclusion of as to why that is happening. Now, this has been going on for a very, very long time. It's very clear from the evidence. Companies House began in 1844, but I actually believe this goes back to at least the Reformation of the 13th century and the start of the control of the information through the creation of the governments and this centralized worldwide criminal corruption that we're all now living under. And as I've said, it's very clear that the blood of the children is so relevant to this that I think it is the main focal point as to everything that has been going on according to all of my evidence now. And we're going to go into, as I've said, a little bit of information as to why that may be. Now, I've been making multiple police reports. I've got probably over 40 reference police reports now that have been completely ignored. Okay, this is by my former police force as well, completely ignored, so they know that I'm telling the truth. There's no response. They're not even telling me to stop contacting them. They are sending, it seems, police dogs to try and find me. It seems as though there's helicopters trying to locate me, or they're trying to make me believe that they're trying to locate me, which is, again, one of the things that I might sort of touch on a bit as we go. Now, what I'm going to do is read from my document, which is now being publicized. Okay, now I was going to tweak it a little bit more, but I just think as it is, let's just get this document out now to as many people as we can. And I actually believe this is the most important document on earth. And I don't think I'm exaggerating by saying that at all. Literally the most important document on earth. Now, there's a lot of spelling mistakes in there, but the evidence in there has the ability to bring heaven on earth. It is that powerful. If you don't want to say heaven on earth, say paradise, all right, for pretty much all of humanity, all right, and to reverse the inversion that has been put on our planet, linking in with the Satanic Temple United Kingdom and how that ties in with Christianity and the blood of the children and the falsified prophecies in all of this. So my advice to you, if you've got that document, send it out to absolutely everyone you know, okay? The more people that have this document, the safer everybody becomes, rather than just you retaining it. And I am going to continuously be sending this out to more people now on my emails and everything else over the next few days. So my advice is get it out to everybody. As I said, I was going to tweak it a little bit more, but I think it's good enough, and I think it's got enough critical evidence in there now. I think it's nearly 2,000 pages. And everything I'm talking about can be proved through that document. Now, we know there's a lot of panicking going on in relation to this. We've had the article released over the last week or so where they are trying to claim the web filing system for Companies House has been corrupted. So this now gives them the ability, or they're trying to say that the Companies House records have been corrupted by somebody else and not our governments. It's not going to work. All right. You will see from my document that the verification now through the document proving all of the links is far too expansive, far too conclusive for them to try and get away with this by trying to say that the Companies House records have been infiltrated. Now, it really is blatantly obvious what our criminal governments have been involved in, certainly in relation to the criminal network they've got in place. I'm still trying to obviously theorise around the motive behind it, and I think the blood of the children element I'm going to be talking about is absolutely critical in all of this. So I'm just going to read from my document so I don't forget anything, and obviously it's only a small part of it, and just show you the leading into some of the information about the blood of the children and why I'm starting to come to the conclusion that I am, and how this ties in with the Albert Pike letter to Mazzini in 1871, which we'll go into a bit later. And I think it's actually a critical part of all of this, the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini in 1871. So we're actually going to look at that a bit later, if I remember. So this international government fraud, I made the first report when I started finding out about it, and obviously I didn't know to the extent I do now what's been going on, but I made the first report to Action Fraud in December 2022. This was followed by many reports to my former police force, Dorset, and that I've been liaising with people on the economic crime unit of Dorset Police that was overseen by Sam Durea. She was the assistant chief constable. Now, the Dureas have now been linked to the Vatican, murders, abuse, crimes against children, the international criminal network, we're linking with the BBC. Also, this is immediately, by the way, we're not talking several companies away. They're all connected via an organisation called Field Fisher, which the BBC has the contract for. Okay, it's a solicitor's firm. And within that company, I think it's either 300 or 600. If you go and look at Field Fisher LLP, it's either 300, I can't remember, or 600 records within the People record. And when you go into each record, they've got solicitors firms. So they've centralised the criminal legal system. So in other words, the solicitors have all been centralised to the blood of the children. And this now makes sense because it's linked into the Satanic Temple, tying in with, there's even a group called the Sweeney Todd Group, where they all connect to. And Sweeney Todd was a character, as we know, from the 1800s that was slicing the throats of victims and putting the remains in pies of the bodies, the remains of people in pies. So this is now all being shown through the Companies House records. So going back to my document, so the Dureas, I identified that connection through the murder of Jill Dando, finding the link to the Dureas into the Vatican, into the BBC, because obviously Jill Dando was massively connected to the BBC. She was actually in a relationship with the head of the BBC, and then she got into a relationship with someone else, and everyone around her is compromised by this government fraud, even her brother, which is, you'll see that in the document. So anyway, Sam Durea was overseeing the economic crime unit that I was reporting this to in 2022. She then got moved along with multiple other people as I was continuing the exposure. She then got moved along with a lot of other people from those organisations. Despite having confirmed that they had identified fraud initially from my reports, Dorset Police later refused to acknowledge this appropriately again, as they realised they were starting to establish evidence of the true scale of the crime and their involvement. And I actually now believe that every government organisation has been positioned specifically, it seems, because of the blood of the children and the laundering of the money in relation to the crimes against the children and how that blood relates to that. And we're going to go into that, as I've said, a little bit more. During my inquiries, Dorset Police had provided 2 emails inadvertently confirming that they were allowing the banks to produce forged bank documents and shared sensitive information that I had provided them with the prime suspect, John Fleming, who was Deborah Fleming's husband, during my investigation. And I know that because of an email that John Fleming sent to all of the shareholders for the company where my investigation was taking place, and it contained information that only Dorset police knew. So I knew Dorset police was feeding the information to somebody who had already named to Dorset police as a prime suspect due to the accountant that was their friend, which now links into I'm now finding connections into Jeffrey Epstein almost immediately, Disneyland, into Harvey Weinstein, and that then connects directly to the research of Prince Harry having worn the skin of Madeleine McCann in his shoes around the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. Okay, so just reading on so I don't get too lost in this. So they provided the 2 emails confirming that they had identified the fraud. They then later tried filing my reports as no further action. My devices are constantly being infiltrated, with the latest, and this was a few weeks ago, being thousands of unrecognised files being added to my phone, and despite me removing them, more appear. I can only speculate on what these files may contain and how many other people may have been victimised by the actions to silence them by infiltrating devices and potentially planting evidence on people's devices, including high-profile people that may be trying to speak out about the criminal network and what's going on with the crimes to the children and the blood of the children. All mobile phone companies, along with every large organisations, have been centralised to the criminal fraud, going back a very long way, and obviously since the phone companies have been started, it's all been centralised. And this will then link in with the Israeli organisation Pegasus, which has the ability to infiltrate all of devices as part of this central government fraud. And remember, they've had, anyone that finds this hard to believe, remember, going back to the Reformation when they started to control all information, that's 700 years ago, everybody. They've had 700 years to start controlling all of the information as the technology increases, and get that manipulation to a point where they have full control over all of it. Yeah, when someone's mentioning the Judaism, we're going to come into that. I'm fairly certain that Judaism has been infiltrated in all of this, and it's not actually Judaism that's behind this. But we'll come to that later if I remember. So Vodafone, which is my company, is part of the centralised criminal government network. A very quick example of this is shown by Vodafone Automotive UK Limited, being a criminal organisation having been incorporated in 1999 with the same 2 companies as Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited, which is where my investigation began. My wife and I had moved out of Exbourne Manor and into a van when I realised the apparent scale of what I was uncovering and the possible risks involved to both of us. On returning in the night to collect items, Anthony Roberts appeared to be following us in the middle of the night, getting on his phone and trying to get someone to attend the location, I suspect. I now suspect that my wife was actually facilitating this at the time. We spent some time with my father-in-law, Nicholas Morton, and his girlfriend, Sam King, on moving out of the address, and I confided in Nicholas Morton, not realising he was also connected to the fraud and quickly to Exbourne Manor. Now, because of what I'm going to be talking about later, if I remember, we have to consider that some people have actually been positioned within the criminal network, but they are actually good people and potentially have been trying to protect me and facilitate me in preventing the crimes against the children. I'm not saying that's the case with these people, but this is now things that I'm having to consider because of the evidence that I'm acquiring. So he had informed me that he played squash with members of the Branksome Masonic Hall. This is my father-in-law in Masonic Hall in Poole, Dorset, and my wife's brother had also claimed to be a Freemason. Despite me discussing the fraud and the specific companies with them, he had not informed me that he was also connected almost immediately to the criminal organisations within the fraud and to Exbourne Manor. So I had to identify that myself. They didn't tell me that. So, of course, it looks as though they were implicated. I had many in-depth conversations with them before I identified the important connections to them in the international government fraud and to Exbourne Manor. And they had been talking specifically and being very interested in Stephen Hawkins and black holes before I found the evidence into the collider technology and how that ties in with the falsified prophecies. I'm just going to remove somebody here. I would advise nobody to ask any questions until I come to you later, because I'm going to just go to the latest questions rather than trying to go back over everything and read it. There was a real interest in talking about the black holes and Stephen Hawking before I'd even identified the very critical evidence tying in with the black holes in the falsified prophecies in all of this. One of my wife's family members had supposedly been involved in some sensitive issues regarding the police and had been in a very difficult place emotionally. He claimed that at a critical time in this, he had heard my voice calling out to him, along with what appeared to be a divine intervention, which I'm not going to go into, but it basically involved a feather falling on his hand, saving him his life because it changed his mind about something, and hearing my voice at the same time, along with what appeared to be, which he claims, helped his emotional state at the time. I now suspect this was potentially staged to provide me with information as to who I may be in all of this. In deep conversations with this person, they had explained they did not believe in a creator, as was the case for most of my family, my personal family, and also my wife's family. In fact, they were very adamant that they didn't believe in a creator, specifically my family in Kent. They were also, I found out that person was also connected quickly to Exbourne Manor, where my investigation began through the Company's House records. We then went on a holiday to a cottage, which was booked by them for a birthday trip for a member of the family, and it was literally right near where my sister was living, in Gloucestershire. And I now suspect this was deliberate. During that, sorry, I'm just trying to determine whether I read this bit. Yeah, whilst we were staying in a van, they arranged, I believe, or somebody arranged for my brother-in-law, who's linked to the main Freemason lodge, to try and scare us at night, whilst we were parked up, possibly as a test for me in all of this to deter me. While staying at the cottage, I got everybody together as my evidence is starting to build, and I became quite teary-eyed as I told them about the evidence and tried to get their opinion on the strategy moving forward in all of this. None of them appeared shocked or overly concerned about what I was saying, and I now suspect that they all knew about what I was finding out. They had also arranged for my wife's younger brother to bring his girlfriend to the cottage, who supposedly was related to one of the former owners of AFC Bournemouth, which is where Anthony Roberts at Exbourne Manor also worked, and they knew that, you see, and that was Anthony Roberts was the acting chairman for Exbourne Manor, where he resigned when I wanted to look at the bank documents, which triggered my whole investigation, okay, in July 2022. So they arranged for somebody claiming to be a relative of one of the heads or owners of AFC Bournemouth to be in the cottage at this time. I believe that was deliberate. On leaving the cottage, somebody had positioned a Russian doll by the exit of the door with Vladimir Putin's face stuck onto it. And I mentioned it, and they just laughed it off. I now believe that was deliberate. And I'd already said, or started to say, that I was finding connections to the Russian government in the international government fraud. And we're going to come into the Russian side of things in a minute, which is one of the reasons I'm actually coming on here tonight. Lisa's brother then separated from this person who was supposedly linked to an owner of AFC not long afterwards. Bear with me. I was then continuously trying to send all of the evidence to everyone I knew on WhatsApp messages, and the member of the family then blocked me from this WhatsApp family group as I was trying to send the evidence to try and get them to do the right thing. And that happened with everyone within my families, okay? All of my friends, all of my families ended up blocking me as I was trying to get them to assist me and trying to send them the evidence. I've been made aware that one of my wife's, former wife, I don't know if we're divorced, I don't think we're actually husband and wife because of the forgery anyway, but one of the family members and their boyfriend worked for a company called Marquee Group Limited in Christchurch in Dorset. Marquee Group supplies temporary shelters for film sets and where they may be required in film sets, and the entertainment industry is a huge part of the criminal network with huge Hollywood connections. I've noticed some spelling mistakes. Huge Hollywood connections having been made to my father's accountant in Kent and also to my mother's employee very, very quickly. And we're talking Ridley Scott, the director of Gladiator, whose brother Tony lived in Chatham, where I was born in Kent. And he actually committed suicide supposedly in 2012, which I think is all related to this. Marquee Group Limited was incorporated in the important year of 1991, the same year that David Icke had predicted that the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis, and is linked to the intelligence agencies. It's also the same year that my favourite movie, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, was released, the movie. This company's name had been changed in 1995, the same year as the incorporation of the intelligence agency, Russian government and royal family linked Hacklowick International Advisory Board, which is on page 40 of the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, that links most areas of the fraud. And that organisation, the Hacklowick International Advisory Board, dissolved in 2024 after I exposed it. So that basically, that means my evidence has caused intelligence agency, royal family and Russian government linked companies to dissolve as the exposure continues. It has criminal company, the London Law Agency, on its incorporation document. This makes immediate links to Keir Starmer via the Death Penalty Project Limited, and also Madeline's Fund, leaving no stone unturned, which links to Madeleine McCann, which is a criminal organisation. The filing history shows that changes were made to Ben Scrobby, a name called Ben Scrobby, and David Tabb, the founders, and that the registered address was changed in December 2023 as I was exposing or continuing to escalate and expose the fraud publicly. Now, this is within the Marquee Group that we're talking about, that's linked to my wife's family. Research suggests that the Marquee Group is connected to few marquees, and that in August 2025 it was awarded a 2-year contract to produce shelters for large amounts of corpses in the event of many people dying. This was a government contract. An article from January 2023 shows Lester Aldridge, who were involved in a meeting with Ben Scroggy, this person, and Marquee Group's expansion. So the company was expanding as I was exposing the fraud. Lester Aldridge are significantly connected to the fraud around Exbourne Manor, as shown throughout the document. And in fact, more recently, I've received certain proposed civil legal action against me involving this organisation. Ben Scroggy connects Marquee Group Limited to 5 companies, including MK Topco Limited, that was incorporated in 2023 as I escalated the exposure. It has Squire Patton Boggs on its incorporation document. Squire Patton Boggs is centralised, as I told you earlier, to Field Fisher, which means the BBC, the Vatican, De Rea, Jill Dando's death, and everything that I'm exposing. It's all been centralised basically to the Vatican. So we know there's a spiritually conclusive agenda in all of this, because everything is now being proven to be linked to the Vatican and the blood of the children that we'll come to shortly. David Brian Tabb connects Marquee Group Limited to 9 companies, including Artemis Theatre Foundation UK, that was incorporated in 2007, the same year that Madeleine McCann went missing and when Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited was incorporated. And it has a registered address of Boscombe Manor, Bournemouth. Boscombe is close to, but basically Exbourne Manor is on Christchurch Road in Bournemouth, where my investigation began, and it's between Boscombe and Bournemouth. And my introduction to that property was staged, okay? So was my introduction to my wife in 2007. This company connects immediately to the fraud by Stephen Blackmore of an address of 16 Churchill Way in Cardiff and Secretariat Appointments Limited on its incorporation document. Secretariat Appointments Limited is shown in the People Record and connects to over 21,000 companies, including Eurofins Chemtest Limited, that makes the connection to the intelligence agencies, the police involved in a fake non-molestation order against me involving my wife, and that Eurofins company links to the COVID deception as well, and it links to the intelligence agencies. Norman Harold Higgin connects Marquee Group Limited to 5 companies, including Crabton Close Limited, that was incorporated in 1993 and has a registered address of 10 Bridge Street in Christchurch, Dorset. This is right near where I worked in the police and where I was living with my wife from 2010 or 11. This also makes direct connections to my former inspector at Christchurch, which is Lance Cliff, and to Fretton's Solicitors, who is the criminal organisation linked solicitor, Simon Immins, that my wife has been trying to instruct in relation to the property and our divorce settlement, which links to major organised crime. And that links to key areas of the fraud. I could go on, but this highlights the apparent risk to humanity from those behind the centralised criminal network and the connections now established to my wife, my wife's family, and connected to Jimmy Savile, which is, remember, if you're not already aware, Jimmy Savile had a property from 1972 until his death about 5 minutes away from Exbourne Manor, where my investigation began, and they are directly connected via the company's house records. Not only that, but that property links to the royal family and the death of Daniel Morgan from 1987, which then links into major international government fraud via the research surrounding that death into the Freemasons as well. Now, that property also connects directly with JFK, John F. Kennedy's family, immediately via an address through the company's house records. So this creates a connection to Jimmy Savile, Exbourne Manor, JFK family, me, and everything I'm talking about. So we have this, the reason I'm telling you that is we have this connection to a contract that was given for mass casualty events, and it was a 2-year contract issued in 2025. Now, that could have been done deliberately for the right person to believe that there's a threat to creation, or to support the extra evidence that I'm talking about in relation to the threat to creation and to humanity. Referring back to the initial reports and inquiries, Dorset Police filed my reports as no further action, despite the irrefutable evidence. On making an appeal, all other organisations refused to intervene, with the Home Office finally suggesting that the Police and Crime Commissioner's Office should deal with my reports. This was despite me having identified that Dorset Police Crime and Commissioner David Sidgwick was not only linked quickly to Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited via the company's house records via Bournemouth School, but by a key name of Caroline Kellaway, also to Julian Assange and a Doomsday Cult. All 3 of my families, the Association of the Police and Crime Commissioners, have also been identified as connected to Jimmy Savile, immediately, practically via the research, linking with Donald Trump, the main Freemasons Lodge, the royal family members, and tying back in with the Collider technology and the research that I've got around Madeleine McCann and her skin potentially having been worn in Prince Harry's shoes around the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. So this was all linked to David Sidgwick, okay, who the Home Office were trying to get through the organisation. They were trying to get the organisation, the Police and Crime Commissioners, to deal with my reports. The Police and Crime Commissioners are now being scrapped since I have exposed all of this. Bear with me, I've just locked my phone. Let me just go back. In a minute, we're going to get to, I'm building up to the blood of the children and how this appears to be relating to everything. Now, just to show you how quickly the connection is to David Sidgwick, the police and crime commissioners, when you research the name John Shipton, who is the father of Julian Assange, remember we've got the evidence of Julian Assange linking into a doomsday cult, going back to the doomsday clock of 1947. John Shipton, that record connects I think it's one company away from my father-in-law's financial advisor. Okay. When you go into the financial advisor, one or two companies away is Deborah Fleming, who's linked to the Flemings, and Deborah Fleming was the one that initiated my removal from Exbourne Manor after I continuously refused, being a director, to file forged bank documents that appeared to have been created by somebody on the Treasury Department at Lloyd's Bank. So I'm a bit tired. So hopefully I'm making sense in all of this. I know it's a lot to take in. I've got evidence proving all of this. Bear with me. And sorry, yeah. And when you go in from Deborah Fleming, you then hit David Sidgwick, the police and crime commissioner for Dorset. And then there's links into a ministry in Wimborne, which is where the Flemings lived, which is also where the creator for the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee, lived in Wimborne in Dorset. That then makes a connection via the ministry at that organization. So you have the religious connection then into the falsified prophecies, into the doomsday cult, all proven irrefutably, verifiably through the Companies House records and everything I'm telling you. And this is a snippet of the evidence, all right? There's so much more tying all of this together. It's just mind-blowing. And every day my mind is blowing. And I'm literally talking to myself, just saying, wow, and thanking the creator for getting me this evidence and keeping me alive and keeping me healthy, strong, and psychologically sound in all of this. Despite finding my reports as no further action, on the 21st of September 2023, the Bournemouth Echo publicised that Dorset police were involved in an investigation with a company called Initiative Property Management Limited that had been incorporated in May 2009, 4 months before the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales that was incorporated and that links practically most areas of the fraud. And this organisation, Initiative Property Management, links very quickly through the Companies House records. It also links almost immediately to Tommy Robinson. Okay, yes, the Tommy Robinson via the research. And before then, you hit Aylsham Village Companies, which then appears to link in with the infiltration of the royal family and how that ties in with Vanessa Emery. So this investigation was supposedly launched into Initiative Property Management Limited. They publicised it on articles. Research shows that the Bournemouth Echo, which is the media company that publicised it, is part of the NewsQuest group and part of the centralised criminal network. News West Media Southern had been incorporated in 1864, 20 years after Companies House started, and its register has been forged. And you really need to get this into your head, and most of you do realise this. All media companies are centralised to the Vatican now, right? And to this central criminal network that I'm trying to expose and how it links in with the blood of the children. And it does link in with the blood of the children, the collider technology, the falsified prophecies, and how that all links in together, everybody, okay? And of course, everything you're seeing with the Jeffrey Epstein files is to do with this, but they're hiding the real issue in all of it, the real evidence, which is what I'm giving you. So we have this company, Initiative Property Management Limited. Dorset Police did not conduct a search of the premises in relation to that company at the initial publication of the investigation. Only over a month later did they search that premises. And I know that because they publicised it. Now, they may have done this deliberately for me to find it. Okay, they may have done it deliberately for me to find it. Now, of course, being in the police, I know that was deliberately to allow the ability to alter, conceal, or destroy evidence in relation to that investigation of the larger criminal network and how it ties in with the royal family, the Vatican, and everything else. It gave that ability through publicising that they didn't search it until a month later. I know, obviously, being a police officer or former police officer, you search the premises straight away. You do not publicise an investigation and don't search it. Search the premises. Okay. Dorset Police claim to have investigated 2 people in relation to this organisation, but I suspect this was a false and staged information. And an article from March 2025 suggests that no further action was being taken against these people. This could imply that any sinister plans may already be enacted that they have, or they knew that I was twigging and getting understanding what was going on, so therefore there was no point in them trying to use that as a deception. An article from April 2023, as I was escalating the exposure, shows that NewsQuest, as I've told you about, links to Bournemouth Echo, had appointed James Johnson from Reach PLC as the head of the Bournemouth Echo. This was around the time that I was contacted the Bournemouth Echo to try and get them to help expose my evidence, which they ignored. Reach PLC is a criminal organisation featured throughout the research and connected quickly to Jeffrey Epstein and Robert Maxwell in my research. I later established that not only was my brother-in-law's family linked quickly to Kellaway, which is the name linking to Initiative Property Management Limited, but also to my wife's family in Dorset and my family in Kent, and where I'd been led to believe there was no connection to them all. MP for Bournemouth, Connor Burns, became involved and discussed Initiative Property Management Limited within the government, within Parliament, appearing to try and make me believe the matter was being addressed. But Burns refused to engage with me and was linked to the fraud himself, and he later stopped being an MP, like so many others who have now stepped down from their position, including Bob Seeley, who was the MP for the Isle of Wight and who had set up an informal parliamentary UK island group that links to Ghislaine Maxwell via my research. And Deborah Fleming had been the NHS Chief Executive Officer for Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset. Burns also made connections to Letter Plant Limited, a former name of criminal company, AstraZeneca UK Limited, that had been incorporated with the same companies as Expoor Manor and links directly to Andrew Bridgen, who was the first person to tell me about adrenochrome and the blood of the children. Which, of course, the big question is, why? Why would someone tell me, if they're part of that centralised criminal network, the blood of the children, if they are connected to the blood of the children via the research? Which, again, tells you potentially there's good people that have infiltrated the network and know that it links to the blood of the children and are trying to potentially use me to stop it all. I suspect that Burns has some connections to Burns Hamilton that has huge connections to the fraud around Expoor Manor and were part of the Association of Residential Management Agents, or ARMA, that connects quickly to the research of the Association of Chief Police Officers of the United Kingdom, Julian Assange and the Doomsday Cult, Deborah Fleming, Robert Maxwell, as I've said. And then I've just put the links in my document. The false investigation into Initiative Property Management Limited is one of many incidents that I suspect have been used to alter, conceal or destroy evidence of the wider criminal network, including how it links in with the blood of the children in the Vatican, or they've done it deliberately to see if I would find it because they know something about me to expose it. This includes an explosion that happened at JP Morgan in America, a fire at BAE Systems, which is the largest defence contractor for the United Kingdom, fires at Hollywood, as we were aware in early 2025, I believe, where supposedly a member of the Rothschilds family died, and a significant fire at TJ Waste and Recycling in Hampshire. More recently, on the 6th of September 2025, articles emerged of a fire at the Helios building of the London BBC television studios, within days of me releasing evidence relating to the mass casualty fatality resilience capability and how that connects to the chair David Bellamy to the BBC and to the marquee group that I told you about at the beginning, linking with my wife's family, as shown elsewhere in the document. The Helios connection to the BBC fire now appears to be important, as shown in the research of the Sierra Club and linked to the research of the apparent death of former Manchester Chief Constable Michael Todd, who died supposedly in 2008. Now, obviously, those of you who have my document, this will all make a lot more sense. You'll be able to read it, be able to click on the links, verify everything I'm telling you, okay, and see all of this information to prove it all. So I know it's so much to take on. I appreciate that. But those of you who have my document will be able to look at it all, take your time, and really verify everything. I suspect that many deaths are being staged as a deception as they struggle to control their criminal system and try to scare others from speaking out. Of course, I would be naive to think that no one has been murdered with such large sums of money involved. We're talking trillions. But I suspect that at least some of the deaths are not real, based on the evidence acquired from the research of the death of George Floyd and how that links into the deception surrounding the Black Lives Matter and how that ties in with the Mazzini document again, which we're going to come to later. I suspect this will also be the case with a helicopter crash involving a Siemens CEO and his 3 children and wife supposedly killed in New York on the 10th of April 2025, which is important due to the apparent death of Siemens CEO in that helicopter crash, an incredibly important company regarding the falsified biblical prophecies and Jimmy Savile, and links immediately to Jeffrey Epstein via the Edge Foundation within that company, as shown elsewhere in the document. And that changed its name for the first time since 1962, after I publicized the evidence of the link to Jeffrey Epstein to Siemens. On the 6th of September 2025, I received information that 16 people were involved in far-right German political parties had died within 3 weeks of local elections, with 6 or 7 of them being within the same party. This is unlikely coincidental, and I suspect it related to the international system of crime in place and Germany's significant role within it. The fire at TJ Waste and Recycling in Hampshire, mentioned previously, is particularly important. And this is where we're going to get into the blood of the children now, okay? Because it connected with it occurred within 48 hours. It was more like 24 hours, but let's say 48 hours of me publicizing a police report of evidence that I had found in relation to Exbourne Manor, linking to an organization called CYM that appeared to be involved in the harvesting of adrenochrome, the blood taken from tortured children and tortured and murdered children. At sometime in 2024, I received a document apparently pertaining to the blood taken from tortured children. It included a German letter, which, when translated, and I translated it, suggested someone had stumbled across a document showing a chart of children's names between the age of 6 and 13, appearing to have been held in detention centres around the world and then being harvested their blood. I'd also seen videos explaining the document. The document was dated June 2020, and one of the addresses appeared to correspond to an address used by AstraZeneca, the vaccine company. Of course, I could not verify the contents of the document, but the results from the research from it are significant. The document displayed a company called CYM Limited with the words CYM Caring Corp or Corporation. Caring is youth, youth is money, money is freedom, written on the document. The address shown for CYM on the document is 725 Fifth Avenue, New York, 10022 with NY before it. When this is entered into Google Maps, it is Trump Towers in New York, and I have verified that, and it is Trump Towers. A company's house search showed that CYM Limited was incorporated in 2006, the year that I moved to Kent from Dorset, and the Da Vinci Code movie about a deception within Christianity was released, as mentioned elsewhere. And it dissolved in 2018, as elements of the fraud appeared to be being exposed by Gordon Bowden. The company connects immediately with the fraud and research of the paedophile information exchange and the World Trade Center disaster by companies made simple on its incorporation document. And the companies that, or the non-verification element that Gordon Bowden was exposing, who was an ex-military, which was 788 to 790 Finchley Road, linking into international corrupt politicians, dictators and mafias, links immediately to the accountant for Exbourne Manor, Carter and Coley. On searching CYM Group Limited was revealed that had been incorporated in March 2023 as I escalated the exposure of the fraud, and it was in the process of being struck from the register when I did that research. In other words, they were trying to remove it from the register. Another CYM Limited had been incorporated in April 2020, 2 months before the date of the adrenochrome document that I've told you about, with the nature of business stated as specialist medical practice activities. Michael Geary is in the people record of this company and connects it to Light Torch Clinic Limited, that was incorporated in April 2009, the year I became a director at Exbourne Manor, and shortly before the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales was incorporated. And that was incorporated within 2 weeks of me becoming a director of Exbourne Manor Freehold Limited. I don't think that's a coincidence, everybody. And the Royal Foundation is the company that links most areas of the fraud together. This company, the CYM one, dissolved in June 2023 as the exposure continued. Geary within that company also connects to Consents Limited, that was incorporated as Made Up Name. Literally, that was its name. It was incorporated as Made Up Name Limited. This is the mockery, okay, against us, or they have done it deliberately for the right person to find it. And it does appear as though I am, for whatever reason, the only person in the world that is finding this and exposing the entire world's criminal network and how it links in to centuries-old deception around the blood of the children. And this company was incorporated in December 2012 after CERN claims to have discovered the God particle. And it also has companies made simple on its incorporation document, linking back in with the paedophile information exchange and the World Trade Center disaster via a company name where they've removed it. Again, this could have been done deliberately for the right person in the world to uncover it. They removed a company name from a document. And that was because it made the connection to the World Trade Center disaster and Silverstein Real Estates, which means Larry Silverstein, who acquired the lease for the World Trade Center months before it collapsed. And that links it to the paedophile information exchange and the National Council of Civil Liberties. So this Consents Limited has the London Law Agency and Bates, Wells and Braithwaite's on its incorporation document, which makes an immediate connection to the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales company. And that company also links to my upbringing via an organisation called Ingenious Film Partners 2, which is on it. All right, so it links to my upbringing. And that's because it's tied almost directly to one of my friend's wives who I was growing up with. And remember, there's over 5 million registered companies, so that's not going to be a coincidence. So we have this, the London Law Agency, I mentioned it earlier, remember? That connects back in with Madeleine's fund, leaving no stone unturned, so the Madeleine McCann case, and it links in back in with Keir Starmer and the Death Penalty Project Limited. The Bates, Wells and Braithwaite connection, which is all here, we're talking about all on the same document here, everybody, also makes the link to P Diddy, all right, because P Diddy or Sean Combs used Bates, Wells and Braithwaite's for his defence solicitor for the child trafficking network. So that links immediately. So it's all corrupted, basically. It links back in with the royal family and to everything that I'm telling you about, to P. Diddy. Where are we? Sorry, Lisa Marie. I don't know if I mentioned this bit. American. So it's an American person. Lisa Marie Rowland connects Consents Limited to Ticket for Troops, and that's where the London Law Agency and Bates and Braithwaite connection is. Now this now makes a connection to the military, presumably Tickets for Troops, and we have a military connection here because General John Nicholas Reginald Horton connects Ticket for Troops to Shaw Cloud Plus Limited that was incorporated in 2012. It links to the fraud immediately by Barbara Cahan of Winnington House to Woodbury Grove on its incorporation document. Now, Barbara Cahan links back in again immediately to Finchley Road, the address that I've just told you about, and therefore linking in with the accountant again of Exbourne Manor. Linking it now, it links in with the military and to the adrenochrome. This address, okay, Woodbury Grove, makes apparent personal it looks as though their personal references were, and I need to come to this later, to me, to QAnon. Okay, now many of you have heard of the QAnon movement linking in with Donald Trump. This now makes a direct connection to me, it seems, to QAnon. All right, and I'll come to the QAnon evidence another time because I want to focus on the blood evidence at the moment. As shown elsewhere, it makes direct connection to Carter and Coley, as I've said, the accountant. Bevan Graham Duncan. I'm just going to see if there's anyone I need to remove that's doing anything. Oh, I've just seen, so someone's put CYM is a couple of doors away from me. That's interesting. It is a Ukrainian child's camp. Yep, there you go. This all links in with Ukraine, everybody. And we're going to come in, I'm going to be talking about, I just want to give you the evidence and then I'm going to come to a bit of the theory based on not just what I'm telling you tonight, but based on the whole document. Bevan Graham Duncan connects Shaw Cloud Plus Limited, remember this is the company we're talking about, to various Matrix companies, with Matrix appearing to be used as a name to the system in place. As we know, they all say we're in the Matrix. And they connect to CMME Group Limited, that has a registered address of Interpath Limited, of 10 Fleet Place, London, linked to the fraud and the research of Tony Blair and David Cameron, and many other connections. Lord Jonathan Peter Marland of Oddstock connects Tickets for Troops. So we're just going back to Tickets for Troops to British Museum Friends. Page 8, and this is very important. So we now have a link. Remember, this is coming from the research of adrenochrome. We now have a link via this Lord of Oddstock. So it links in with the House of Lords to the British Museum Friends. Page 8 of its incorporation document shows Henrietta Francesca McCall as being an Egyptologist, and a company, Egypt Exploration Society, is important throughout the research and connects quickly to an address near Exbourne Manor, all right, where my investigation began, and to Tommy Robinson, the exact same address. Okay, it also links into other key parts of the area of the research, but we have this Egyptology connection and we have British Museum Friends. Other companies are shown on the incorporation document, which include British Museum Company Limited, Bristol and West PLC, Royal Sun Alliance, the Family Welfare Association, and the Church of Christ Scientist. The British Museum is important in relation to the Albert Pike letter appearing to have been removed, written to Mazzini, of the Vatican, as I've said, in the Illuminati, the head of the Illuminati in 1871, and the Three World War deception prior to the removal from public view in the British Museum Library in 1977, the same year that I was born. So it looks as though when I was born, or they've set this up for me to expose it, they removed the Albert Pike letter from public view, or they've set it up for me to find it to draw my attention into the Albert Pike letter. And we're going to come to that a bit later, as I've said, and how that ties in with the blood of the children. Marland of Oddstock connects to Jan Speed Technologies Limited. It was incorporated in 2005 and is a criminal company again with the London Law Agency on its incorporation document, again making the link to Keir Starmer, etc., etc. Andrew Edward Cohen is shown as a director of Janspeed Technologies, and a separate search for them reveals that there is an exact duplicate record connecting to Close Film Sale and Leaseback that makes critical connections throughout the research to Satanic Temple, United Kingdom, and apparent references to the Cube of Satan, or Saturn. Some people say it's the Cube of Satan or Saturn. I think Saturn is probably a reference to Satan. It also links to the intelligence agencies, the Goldsmith family, who had an original name of Goldschmidt, and major areas of the criminal network as shown elsewhere in the document. And that link to the intelligence agencies includes the link to Kash Patel, who Donald Trump positioned in early 2025 as the head of the FBI. Close Investments Limited is shown in the people record for this Close Film Sale company and connects to 10 companies, including Gloucester Rain, that was incorporated in 2005, and it dissolved in February 2024 as the exposure continued. And I can tell you now, it's becoming quite obvious from my research that the entire world's system is collapsing because of this exposure and changing. You can see it. Key companies are dissolving, even though they've been around for decades. Okay, people are resigning. You can see it happening. This organization, the Rain Company, which we'll come to in a minute, is why that's important, is a criminal company with Jordan's Limited on its incorporation document, again making a direct connection to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began. Gloucester is not far, because remember it's called Gloucester Rain, it's not far from where my brother-in-law's family live, and that are connected directly to the main Freemason Lodge, Jimmy Savile, Exmoor Manor, quickly to Elon Musk, that links to CERN and the Collider technology, the Nazi regime deception, which then ties in with the letter to Mazzini, Jeffrey Epstein and other areas of the criminal network, and the apparent crimes against children as shown elsewhere. It's really frustrating for me because I'm noticing as I'm reading through it, loads of spelling mistakes that I've made, and it's really frustrating for me. But just get it circulated. You know, we can't. The evidence is there, because what they've done is they've kept removing the spell check on my device, and everything's being done on my phone. I'm getting old now, guys. I'm 49 or 48. I think I'm 48. And you know, this isn't an easy task for me doing this all on my phone. Apparent crimes going. Yeah. Research shows that Rain's list is the same name given to the Ritual Abuse Information Network and support, and includes names of those alleged to be involved in ritual abuse. So we have this Rain's company. So Christopher Powell connects Gloucester Rain LLP to 9 companies, including Broadcats. On submitting and publicising a further police report to my former Dorset police regarding the fire, my entire YouTube channel was removed. The same day, they removed my entire YouTube channel. Whether that was done deliberately for me to then get it out to the public even more and let the public know this is it, this is what it's all about, everyone, I don't know. But they removed my entire YouTube channel that exact same day. Several of my social media channels have since been removed, along with multiple videos, despite most of it showing publicly available information. Now, they're still suppressing my evidence. All right, I'm only getting 5,000 followers. It should be tens of thousands of people on YouTube, if not, you know, far more than that with the evidence that I'm producing. So we can tell that they're trying to control and suppress my evidence. And many people that are subscribed will be part of the criminal network. Another company identified by one of my contacts was called Adrenochrome Services Limited, that had been incorporated in 2018, around the time when Gordon Bowden appears to have been exposing his evidence of the non-verification of the fraud. The company dissolved in April 2024 as the exposure continued, like so many are. In April 2022, here we go. Right, this is the more recent evidence. Now, I knew some of this anyway, but just listen to how relevant this now becomes. In April 2022, articles emerged of some celebrities drinking or wearing blood. This was as I was making early inquiries at Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, and shortly after Deborah Fleming had resigned as an NHS CEO for Isle of Wight, Dorset and Hampshire to become involved with Exbourne Manor. And this was including the likes of Megan Fox and her boyfriend openly saying they were drinking blood. Now, they didn't say it was children's blood, but we're starting to get this normalization or exposure, shall we say, of the potential blood element in this. In July 2022, when my investigation was triggered by the resignation of Anthony Roberts from Exbourne Manor, articles emerged of Charles being a descendant of Vlad the Impaler, possibly paving the way for the acceptance and normality of the consumption of or transfusion of children's blood within society. Charles was the oldest person to ascend ever in history, I believe, to ascend to the throne at the age of 73, after the Queen apparently died on the 8th of September 2022, as I was escalating my inquiries at Exbourne Manor. Around the time of the Queen's death, further articles emerged in relation to this. A search for the oldest article in relation to King Charles's connection to Vlad the Impaler suggests that it was first publicised on the 27th of October 2011, 2 days before Jimmy Savile's death, or apparent death. That is not going to be a coincidence. Charles is linked almost immediately to Jimmy Savile through the Company's House records. Research shows that Vlad III was around in 1428 until 1476, and he's commonly known as Vlad the Impaler or Vlad Dracula. And voivode of Wallachia 3 times between, whatever that means, between 1448 and his death. He was regarded as a Christian hero in Romania due to his position to the Ottoman Empire, and he is considered an important ruler of in Valchian history. Books describing Vlad's cruel acts were among the first bestsellers in German-speaking territories. In Russia, popular stories suggested that Vlad was able to strengthen his central government only by applying brutal punishments, and many 19th century Romanian historians adopted a similar view. Vlad's patronymic inspired, I'm probably saying that, patronymic inspired the, I don't even know what that means, the name of Bram Stoker's literary vampire Count Dracula. The name Dracula, which is now primarily used as the name of a vampire, was for centuries known as the sobriquet of Vlad III. I suspect it is not a coincidence that Vladimir Putin has a similar name and Charles became Charles III. Remember, we had Vlad III, we've now got Charles III, King Charles III. Research shows Vladimir Putin was born in 1952 and is a Russian, as we know, politician and former intelligence officer who has served as president of Russia since 2012, which is when CERN claims to have discovered the God particle. Having previously served from the 26th of March 2000 until the 7th of May 2008. Putin also served as acting Prime Minister of Russia from the 9th of August 1999 and full Prime Minister from 31st of December 1999 to the 7th of May 2000, when Viktor Zubkov took over. And again, Vladimir Putin came in from 2008 until 2012 and in that position. He has been described as the de facto leader of Russia since 2000. Now, if we look at some of those dates, they're all relevant. 2000 is the year that the relativistic heavy ion collider was first activated in New York. And then, of course, we had the World Trade Center disaster the following year, and the new high priest of the Church of Satan was positioned after that, called Peter Gilmore, that same year. 1999, the year that we've just mentioned, is when the re-establishment of the Church of Satan took place after the death of the original founder within 2 months of Princess Diana in 1997, which is all tied into my document and my evidence. You'll see how that all links in. And then they re-established, as I've said, the Church of Satan in 1999. 2008 is the year that the Large Hadron Collider in Geneva in Switzerland was supposedly first activated. So we had the Relativistic Heavy Ion Collider in New York, which was first activated in 2000, the year before, as I've said, the World Trade Center disaster. And we had the Geneva Large Hadron Collider overseen by CERN, that was activated in 2008 for the first time. Now, CERN was originally founded in 1954, which is the year after the Queen was coronated. And that's very relevant because you also have an organization called Slaughter and May, and that name is very relevant in itself, everybody. That was incorporated on Companies House in 1954 as well. Slaughter and May. A Companies House search for the middle name of Vladimir Putin, okay, reveals a Vladimir and then the same middle name but a different surname. Born in 1971, connected to 4 companies, including Bacardi Martini Healthcare Limited, that had been incorporated in 2005, and it dissolved on the 13th of September 2022, 5 days after the Queen's apparent death. It has an address in Hampshire, where Deborah Fleming had been the NHS CEO. So let me just recap what that was. The middle name of Vladimir Putin, putting that in to Companies House, brings up a record for Vladimir, followed by the same middle name, but with a different surname of Kazimirov, Kazimirov, okay, born in 1971. And then it makes that connection, as I've just told you. It has an address in Southampton, Hampshire, and Paris Smith and Randall on its incorporation document. It also shows Catherine Georgina Jackson Day of an address in Christchurch, Dorset, where I lived and worked, and is twinned with Christchurch in New Zealand, which links to the Christchurch earthquake, and there's loads of evidence around the Christchurch earthquake, how that ties in with the evidence I've got around the collider technology. So now we have a link into Christchurch from this name appearing to be a link to Vladimir Putin. There are various other Bacardi companies on page 8 of the incorporation document. We'll come to why, some of you will probably realize why Bacardi is going to be relevant in this. Research shows that Vladimir, this exact same name that we're looking at, was actually a person that was born in 1877 and died in 1937, who was a Russian revolutionary with a Narodnok orientation, whatever that is. Vladimir, this person, was born in Tambov, and there was lots of Russian names here, I'm not going to worry about that, who was an attorney, was his father. So we have the link into the legal system. He graduated from school in 1894 and went on to study at the Physics and Mathematics Department of Moscow University, but in 1902 was expelled to another location and emigrated. He joined the Socialist Revolutionary Party, in brackets PSR as an acronym, in 1903. A Companies House search for PSR shows that PSR UK had been incorporated in August 2000, 3 months after Vladimir Putin became Prime Minister. It has PSR Group Limited and an address in Canada on its incorporation document. Brian Hartley Thompson connects this company to Thompson's Express Courier Services Limited, that was incorporated in 2004. It has temple secretaries of 788 to 790 Finchley Road, London, in its people record, making immediate connections to the centralised criminal network and immediately to Carter and Coley, who were the accountants of Exbourne Manor, where my investigation began, and were apparent friends of the Flemings. Stephen Owens, who was the managing agent for Exbourne Manor at the time of my initial investigation, also links to the current Russian government via my research. He resigned on the spot when I went and had a meeting with him, even though I was trying to talk about not only the financial issue that I was trying to expose, but there being a no fire risk assessment since 2017, the year of the Grenfell Tower, which is all very relevant to this, links in back into the Satanic Temple. Okay, he resigned on the spot, and he links to the Russian government, and he is also immediately connected to my brother-in-law's family's company, who links to the main Freemason lodge, and it all links in with Jimmy Savile. And remember, the building at Exmoor Manor links directly to Jimmy Savile, and Stephen Owens, is directly connected to that building via the research. Vladimir secretly returned to Russia. This is going back to the research of not Vladimir Putin, the other Vladimir. Returned to Russia and joined the SR Central Committee in the Caucasus. He embraced the terrorist methods of PSR, personally involving himself in a plot to assassinate the governor of Baku in 1904. So we have a link to terrorism. In 1905, he briefly became the lover of Maria Spiridonova, the future leader of the left socialist revolutionaries. Soon after, he was arrested, according to the research, and again sent to a different province. In 1908, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison and to a different province. In 1911, he moved to Moscow, where he engaged in the creation of the social revolutionary militant groups. During the First World War, he was expelled to Kashin in Kostroma. It appears someone has used this person's details, or, as I suspect is more likely the case, Vladimir Putin has been using fake details, false details. Back to Bacardi Martini Healthcare Limited. Deborah Margaret Reynolds connects this company to 32 predominantly medical related companies. Another spelling mistake. Get so frustrated. It makes me want to not send the document out and then do it again, but you'll be able to understand it. 33 predominantly medical related companies, including Tissue Science Laboratories UK Limited, that was incorporated because not only have you got the blood of the children, okay, you've got organ harvesting in all of this, and we're going to come to how I think this ties in with Christianity in a minute, and how it ties in specifically with me as well, if I remember. So this was incorporated as Tissue Science Laboratories Limited in 1995, the same year as the Russian government Royal Family Intelligence Agency linked Hackler International Advisory Board was incorporated. Its name was changed in 1999, the same year that the Church of Satan was re-established, and when Vladimir Putin was positioned as the Prime Minister of Russia, and it dissolved in 2013, the year after CERN claims to have discovered the God particle. Has John Richard Wilcox of JP Cores Limited, JP Company Registrations Limited, and JP Cord, so you've got Cores and Cord on its incorporation document. I suspect these JP connections refer to JP Morgan, which links back in with the Flemings. The name John Richard Wilcox has already featured in my research. Remember, that's the name on the incorporation document, linked to an Andrew Gilchrist. And Gilchrist has biblical references in its meaning shown elsewhere in the document. And it's linked to the White House Maida Vale Management Limited Company that is shown in the research, making major connections to the criminal network and the apparent crimes against children, and to the horse trade and bloodstock trade, and how that's being used to hide the blood of the children in the research of Ben Hoochin and the Teesside scandal in my document. Patrick Robin David Paul connects Tissue Science Laboratories UK Limited to 16 companies, including the London Institute of Space Policy and Law, that was incorporated, another spelling mistake, on the 29th of September 2009, the exact same day that the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales was incorporated. Remember, the name of this company is the London Institute of Space Policy and Law, created the same day as the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The exact same day, everybody. Now, why is this so important? Well, it's so important because obviously it connects most areas of the fraud, that organisation, and NASA, which is one letter short of an anagram of Satan, had been formed within days of Charles being initiated as the Prince of Wales in 1958. And the first moon landing involving NASA was in 1969, the same year that Charles became the Prince of Wales, as shown elsewhere. Page 19 of the incorporation document onward shows Harbottle and Lewis companies. Harbottle and Lewis then makes the connection immediately back to the skinning or the evidence. It's actually on Harry's Shoes Limited, which links to CERN almost immediately, okay, via the World Wide Web company, and JP Morgan Limited, which links to the Portuguese Chamber of Commerce company. And the Harry's Shoes company was incorporated initially within days of the World Trade Center disaster, and it changed its name 6 days after Madeleine McCann went missing. And there was an article in July 2019, the same month that Jeffrey Epstein was supposedly arrested, where Prince Harry was wearing the same pair of shoes for a prolonged period of time. This then ties in with the Red Shoe Society and Red Shoe Club, linking in with the skin of the children and loads of other evidence. Bear with me. Referring back to the record for Vladimir, not Vladimir Putin, but the other one, they also connect to the Portman Group, that I know has immediate connections to Bournemouth and Dorset, the area where my investigation began. The company had been incorporated as Master Mission Limited. Is that because they knew I was going to find it? I don't know. Master Mission Limited in 1987, before its name was changed to Council for Responsible Use of Alcohol. Now, the alcohol trade is all part of this, everybody, okay? Because what they're behind it, of course, but they're also behind the supposed rehabilitation of people that suffer with alcohol problems. All right, so they work both sides of the system: problem, reaction, solution. This ties in with the falsified prophecies, okay, and the laundering of the money through the problems that they are actually creating. Because what the alcohol does is remove the moral conscience, which separates you from the creator, which then slips you into sin and leads us into the falsified prophecies. Not only alcohol, of course, but and of course not everybody, but most people will treat others in a different way, going against their moral conscience when they've had a drink. Even me, when I used to drink more, and even if I had a little bit now, I might speak to somebody in a different way than I normally would, and then I feel guilty about it afterwards. So it actually not only affects that person, but it affects me. So you can see the detrimental effect that they are deliberately having by their system on the world, and how that is tying with the falsified prophecies through that system to remove moral conscience. Right. This same person, Vladimir with a different surname, also connects to Bacardi Martini Limited, so another Bacardi company that had been incorporated as M+R Martini Rossi Limited in 1935. So it's an old company before its name was changed in 1997, when Princess Diana's death and the founder of the Church of Satan happened. And for the last time, it changed its name in 1999, the same year as the re-establishment of the Church of Satan and Vladimir Putin being positioned as the Prime Minister of Russia. It has a forged register, and A.O. Morandi and Compant on its incorporation document. I need to do a little bit more research around this bit, actually. I've just rushed this today and I wanted to get it out. So I might do a little bit more research around this, but I've got to seriously think about what next steps I do in all of this to stop this. Kazimirov also connects to Bacardi, UK Limited, that had been incorporated, I'm getting tired, incorporated as Amanda Limited in 1941, before its name was changed for the first time in 1992, which is when the Companies House Register started to become electronic and the Catholic Church became a legal entity. This is all very relevant in this, okay? Its name was last changed in 1995 and 1999. In 1964, the reason I'm telling you the Bacardi is we're going to get to why that's potentially relevant. In 1964, Bacardi opened a new offices in Miami, Florida. Exiled Cuban architect Enrique's unusual surname created a hurricane-proofing building there. In 1965, over 100 years after the company was established in Cuba, they established new roots and found a new home with global headquarters in Hamilton, Bermuda. In February 2009, Bacardi's CEO stated that Bacardi's global headquarters would remain in Bermuda for the next 500 years, and Bermuda is our home now. 1965 is the same year that Jordans and Sons Limited, the main company in the fraud, was incorporated, and when De La Rue started printing money for the Bank of Iran, which becomes relevant, and how this ties in with the Albert Pike letter and the Iranian Green Movement of 2009, the same year that the Royal Foundation and the Prince and Princess of Wales was incorporated, and I became a director of Exborn Manor. This links in with everything you're seeing at the moment with Iran and the Iranian conflict deception. What was it? It was something I was going to say. Oh yeah, I haven't put it in my document yet, but I might add it. So Cuba is where Bacardi was first created, and it's the world's oldest spirit, I believe. Oh, I haven't put that bit. That's frustrating. Okay, I definitely need to put that in there. So it's the oldest spirit in the world, I think, from what I remember. Let me just screenshot that. I'm just going to put my phone down there a minute. Oh, why is it not screenshotting? Sorry, it's one of these unusual. You've got to press both buttons on one side rather than on opposite sides. Just do this. Oh my goodness, it's so frustrating. Bear with me. And one of the buttons isn't hardly sticking out, so it's. Nope, still not done it. Oh, sugar. No, I can't do it at the moment on that. I'll just do it later. Hopefully I'll remember. So I think this is going to be relevant to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now, I've already researched the Cuban Missile Crisis, and that becomes relevant to the evidence around JFK, the deception around his assassination, and how that links in with the Russian government and space. Also, the space race, fake space race, and involving Sputnik 1. So I think this is going to become relevant. But anyway, the famous symbol for Bacardi is a bat, which could be a deliberate reference back into the vampires. I suspect that, I'm not saying that the vampires and all of this, but we've definitely got a problem with the drinking of the blood of the children. We'll come into how that ties in with the vampires potentially shortly. I suspect that it is not a coincidence that my mother's favourite drink has always been Bacardi, and that my wife's favourite animal is bats and rats. A quick search regarding the rich paying for blood transfusions reveals Brian Johnson, a tech entrepreneur who had gained attention for extreme anti-aging. Right now we're going to start getting into what I think this is all about, everybody, and how it ties in with Christianity, okay, and into religion. But I'll just read this first. So let me just read that again. A quick search regarding the rich or affluent paying for blood transfusions revealed that Brian Johnson, a tech entrepreneur, had gained attention for his extreme anti-aging regime, which included experimental young blood plasma transfusions from teenage donors to himself, his father, and his son in 2023. This practice, often linked to longevity of life, aims to reverse biological aging, but has raised ethical concerns. Brian Johnson, a tech entrepreneur, has gained attention for his extreme anti-aging regime, which included experiment. Oh, I mentioned that. Already read that. I've put the same two thing in there. I've just copied the same two paragraphs. A BBC article, separate bit of research now. A BBC article from 2017, after the Pizzagate scandal had been exposed and Donald Trump was positioned, its headline was "The super rich are injecting blood from teenagers to gain immortality." It goes on to say that Jesse Karmazin, 32, a Stanford-trained scientist who founded the US clinic told the Sunday Times that the initial results from his patients have been encouraging. I've missed a bit there. And they've said it could help improve things such as appearance or diabetes, of heart function or memory. These are all the aspects of aging that are common cause. I'm not really in the camp of saying this will provide immortality, but I think it comes pretty close, essentially. A further article from the 28th of February 2019, within days of Vladimir Putin announcing his special military operation against Ukraine mentions the subject again, and the same company. Youngblood Transfusion, a company called Youngblood Transfusion, refers to transfusing blood specifically from a young person to an older one with the intention of creating a health benefit. The efficacy and safety of young blood transfusions from anti-aging purposes remain a subject of debate in the scientific community, with limited clinical evidence in humans. There is also concerns of harm, while some preclinical studies on animals suggest potential benefits. There is lack of robust clinical evidence to support its use in humans. The US Food and Drug Administration in 2019 cautioned consumers against receiving young donor plasma infusions, stating they are an unproven treatment. An organization called the Youngblood Institute has also run trials. These, however, involved exchange only of blood plasma. Now, it's interesting because this is going to tie in with an apparent recent murder of a scientist involved in plasma. Now, I thought that was going to be linking in with electric elements of plasma. I think that electric element of plasma is being used to hide the blood of the children that has been going on for a very, very long time. Ambrosia is also the name because we've got a company called Ambrosia, linked into the blood of the children. And Ambrosia is also the name of the food company which was founded in 1917, the same year as the Balfour Declaration that fermented Israel, giving the possible ability to hide the laundering of money in relation to the blood of the children through the food company registrations on Companies House. Ambrosia is a brand food product in the United Kingdom. Its original product was dried milk powder for infants, but it is now mostly known for its custard and rice pudding. The brand plays on the fact that it is made in Devon, England, at a factory in Lifton. With its punning strapline, Devon knows how they make it so creamy. The Ambrosia Creamery was founded in 1917 by Alfred Morris in his home village, Lifton in Devon, to make rich food for infants. He took milk from local farms where most of the cows were the Red Ruby breed. Interesting. And dyed with roller dryers. The term ambrosia refers to an immortalized food of the gods' Greek classicism. This is what it's all about, guys. I'm pretty certain this is what it's all going to be about, okay? What was the thing I was going to mention about that? There's something important I was just going to mention. Oh, yeah. This, potentially, we've got this creamery connection. A lot of people have been saying that there's, within the Jeffrey Epstein files, a mention of the consumption of body parts of children, and that the intestines are like cream cheese. Was that being deliberately publicised to find the evidence linking it with the creameries, etc., and how ambrosia all ties into it? A Companies House search for ambrosia reveals Ambrosia Quality Food Limited. It was incorporated in 2013, and it has the formationscompany.com on its incorporation document, making an immediate connection to multiple world leaders in my research, including Donald Trump and the leaders of Iran, to Fleming Co. Limited, and to Ingenious Film Partners via LegalZoom, and therefore the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales, that connects to most areas of the fraud, and to my upbringing as shown elsewhere. Research shows that Dominic Richard Harrison, known professionally as Youngblood, is an English musician. You've probably heard of him, quite a young guy. And I'm not saying he's directly involved in the crimes against children, everybody. I think he's probably been set up to be part of a front for this. And, you know, let's hope not everybody's going to be involved in the crimes of children. In 2018, which is not long after, okay, this blood of children starts being publicised after, or blood transfusions being publicised after the Pizzagate scandal became exposed. In 2018, he released his debut album called EP Youngblood, followed by his full-length album 21st Century Liability. In 2019, he released the second EP, Underrated Youth, and the following year he released his second studio album called Weird, which peaked at the top of the UK albums chart and reached number 75 on the US Billboard. His third album, titled Youngblood, like his first EP, was released in 2022 and reached number 1 on the UK album charts. Company's House search reveals that Dominic Richard Harrison, with his Youngblood, is connected to 7 companies, including Brat Productions Limited, who was incorporated in March 2024 and will close in fraud. Nicholas Richard Charles Geary, Lycett, he had that same surname, Geary. What was the other name? Interesting. That was Geary was linked to CYM, wasn't he? Okay, so we've now got a name of Geary, but the name Lycett is in the people record and connects to 33 companies, including Sony BB Limited. It was given its name on the 16th of May 2024, 2 days after I exposed the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales publicly. It connects to most areas of the fraud. Sony companies made major connections throughout the criminal network, including directly to the former chair of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, who announced that he was stepping back as the chair within 3 days of me sending my evidence to the World Economic Forum. He had been the chair since it began in 1971, and he actually resigned on. Oh, if I had my microphone covered. Sorry, I bet you haven't been able to hear me for ages. Let me just look at the comments. Yeah. How long did you lose the sound for? Hope. Oh, sugar. I had my finger over the microphone. How I'm because I'm having to hold it. I've said this before. My little finger has to support it does end up slipping under to support the phone. Hopefully, 5 minutes. Okay. Well, I'll go back a little bit then. Oh, just a minute. Someone's put a minute. Someone's put 5 minutes. That shows you, doesn't it, our different perception of time. Right, I'm going to go back a few minutes. I'll go back to the Youngblood. So, did you hear me saying a Company's House search for Ambrosia reveals Ambrosia Quality Food Limited? Just put yes if you did. Okay, someone's put stopped at Ambrosia. Did you hear me say about the food company, Ambrosia Food Company? Just put a yes. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you. Yep, someone's put no. Most people have put yes. Yes, okay, lots of yeses. We'll go with that then. So let's just start with Youngblood, the singer. Dominic Richard Harrison was born in 1997, known professionally as Youngblood. He's an English musician and actor. In 2018, he released his first album. That's around the time that this information is coming out about the blood side of things. In 2019, he released his second album. I won't go into all of the albums. Some of them have got relevant names. A Company's House search reveals that he is connected to 7 companies, including Brat Productions, who was incorporated in March 2024. And this is not look, I'm not, if Youngblood sees this, I'm not saying he's involved in the blood of the children. He could be being used as a front for it, and everyone behind him, you know, his financial advisors or whatever, are linked into the solicitors, are the ones running this. Okay, many people are being used as a scapegoat, if you like, in relation to all of this. Oh, the screen's just gone off. Nicholas Richard Charles Geary. So we have this name of Geary again. Okay, Geary. Now it's not exactly the same name, but Geary is within this name, and Geary linked to CYM the blood of the tortured children, and adrenochrome that we were mentioned earlier coming in from that document, okay? Remember that the address on that document is the address for Trump Towers in New York, linking in with Donald Trump. Now, this could have been done deliberately, as I've said, for the right person to expose it all. All right, and we're going to come into that in a minute. Once I've just read this evidence, I'm going to sort of theorize around some of the evidence in all of this, and some of the theory in all of this. So we have this Geary connection again, and they connect to 33 companies, including Sony BB Limited, that was given its name on the 16th of May 2024. This is 2 days after I exposed the connection to the fraud and the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales that connects most areas of the fraud. And it was actually that exact same day that Vanessa Emery contacted me, claiming to be the real heir to the throne. Sony makes major connections throughout the criminal network, including directly to the former chair of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. Klaus Schwab announced that he was stepping back as the chair within 3 days of me sending my evidence to the World Economic Forum in 2024. First time that he was going to step back since 1971, and he actually resigned on the same day as the Pope's supposed death in 2025. Oh, my phone keeps timing out. It also links it makes critical connections throughout the research, but it also links into the death of Michael Jackson, as shown elsewhere. Lycett, this same person with surname of Lycett, also connects to Graduation Limited, that was incorporated in October 2019, 2 months before the COVID deception. The registered address is 7 Bell Yard, London, used throughout the fraud and connected to the research of Ghislaine Maxwell. Lycett also connects to Hackney Records Holdings Limited, that was incorporated in 2014, and Roger Ames is in the People record and connects this company to 36, including Universal companies, Ingenious, and Live Nation music companies, making major connections to the criminal network, apparent crimes against children, and Live Nation connects to the venue of the 2017 Las Vegas shooting. And the research surrounding the Las Vegas shooting links very quickly to my former colleague and friend Guy Briscoe in Exbourne Manor, who also links in Dorset, who links almost immediately to the blood of the children via a name on an incorporation document linking to Ricky Dearman of the Hampstead Child Abuse Inquiry. Harrison and Lycett also connect to Bloodfest Limited, that have been incorporated in 2023 as I escalated the exposure of the fraud. Referring back to the Hampshire fire, it had occurred at TJ Waste and Recycling, and Companies House shows that TJ Waste and Recycling Limited have been incorporated on May the 4th, 2004, and has an address of 788 790 Finchley Road, and A1 Company Services on its incorporation document, making the immediate connection again to Carter and Coley, the accountants being used by the firm being used by Exbourne Manor for their accounts. Remember, this is where the fire happened after I released, within 48 hours of me releasing, the evidence of the adrenochrome linking to the blood of the tortured children. All right, and this exact same company where the fire happened has that exact same address on it, and that is the same address. Remember that Gordon Bowden said was linked to the non-verification element of the government fraud. Let me just have a break for a minute. Okay. Linked to international dictators and mafias. Ian Jacobs of this company connects to modelreports.com Limited, that has with an address in Salisbury. It was incorporated in 2002 after the World Trade Center disaster. It has JP Cord Limited on its incorporation document. Now, you remember we mentioned JP Cord and JP Cores earlier. Well, JP Cord and JP Cores Limited are normally together and make critical immediate connections to Ping Pong Limited in the research of the Pizzagate scandal and the apparent skinning of children, linking in with Hillary Clinton. They also link directly to a record for Charles Reginald Kirk in the research of apparently assassinated Charles Kirk. Also links to the research of the Brussels Airport, shown in the evidence of the 2016 terrorist attack in Brussels. It also connects to the election centre in the research of Rupert Lowe, linking to the criminal firearms companies and the possible hunting of children, and linking to Shaw and Sons Limited, making the links to my former school, Waterman companies, and to a Knights Templar location. A search for JP Cord Limited shows that it was incorporated as Dorset Educational Trust Services Limited in 1980. 1980 is the same year that the Georgia Guidestones were erected, representing an upcoming man-made apocalypse, before the name was changed in 1982. And the Georgia Guidestones were damaged and destroyed and removed on the 6th, get the timing right, on the 6th of July 2022. The day prior to that is when CERN conducted an experiment for the first time since July 2019, which is the month that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, and when Prince Harry wore the shoes for a prolonged period of time. And it was 2 days after that, that was on the 5th, the experiment on the 5th at CERN, Large Hadron Collider. 6th, Georgia Guidestones, damaged and removed. 8th is when I approached Anthony Roberts, and he resigned then on the 13th, triggering my whole investigation. So the Georgia Guidestones were erected in 1980, representing an upcoming man-made apocalypse. The name was changed for this company in 1982. Dorset is where my investigation began, and the company dissolved on the 16th of November 2010, within 2 weeks of CERN Limited being incorporated. Maria Goch, G-O-H, Irene, G-O-H, and 4 Business Limited are on the incorporation document. 4 Business Limited is critical throughout the research of the criminal network and is immediately connected to CERN Limited on its incorporation document, and therefore the Collider technology. It links to Peter Mandelson and the Jeffrey Epstein scandal that you're all seeing on the news, back to CERN Limited. Darren Brown and the Apocalypse Deception, it links to that. It links to J.K. Rowling, the creator of Harry Potter, who links to the Vatican, and the blood of the tortured children via Sasha Stone. This is all from 4 Business. It links to the Bulgarian Prime Minister, Boyko Borisov, in the research of Julian Assange and a doomsday cult. It links to Barack Obama via a Christian company. It links to the Royal Society London Limited that connects to Ghislaine Maxwell, and a Christchurch earthquake appeal company with a technology company that started the year I was born and dissolved in December 2022, the same month that I reported the fraud for the first time. It links to one of the suspects for the Lee Rigby murder, and the research surrounding that links to the MP for the area where Exbourne Manor is based, or the former MP, Tobias Elwood, where the building for Jimmy Savile was also located, that links to, remember, the family of JFK. It links to the mayor of New York at the time of the World Trade Center disaster. It links to the research of this is the first person who in the world that took the Pfizer vaccine, Pfizer being a German company linking into the international government fraud. It links to my former sergeant who introduced me to my wife in 2007. It links to John Harris connecting with the Knights of Malta and a Jerusalem company, which also links very quickly back to my former school. And it makes major connections via a company called the White House Limited, which appears to be tying to the Isle of Wight and linking with the American government. JP Cord Limited, linked quickly to the fire, as I said, in Hampshire, is shown as having 6,563 appointments, including Opium UK Limited, GBR Security Limited, and Charnwood House, in brackets, Isle of Wight IOW Limited, with an address of Havant in Hampshire, where Deborah Fleming was the NHS chief executive. Michael Stickland connects this company to Isle of Wight Sports Limited, where David Icke had been a director since before 1991. I was informed, but cannot verify, that David Icke lives on the Isle of Wight, where Deborah Fleming had been the NHS chief executive officer, and bear with me, and that Icke may have been positioned there by the Freemasons. Now, I had an interview with David Icke's son, Gareth, back in 2024, I believe. You could tell they were uneasy. It was rushed. I had 15 minutes. I requested an interview with David Icke. Never heard anything. David Icke, if you don't know who he is, he'd been a conspiracy theorist for years and often talked about ritual satanic abuse and lizard people and shapeshifters, I believe. And earlier, I've mentioned that, David Icke's son. I felt the interview was rushed. I mentioned that. I was later contacted by Icke's colleague after I had publicised his connections and was informed they would make contact, but I have heard nothing since. David Icke links to the intelligence agencies now from multiple angles. The research suggests that Icke was a former footballer and therefore already had connections to what appears to be a huge industry in the fraud. In 1991, Icke took part in interviews where he believed he was a messenger from the God's Head, sent to tell people that the world would be devastated by earthquakes and tsunamis, and also making claims of ritual abuse, and that the Rothschilds and others are lizards. David Icke did an interview with Terry Rogan in 1991 and another one in 2006, the year that I moved to Dorset and the Da Vinci Code movie was released. Within the second interview, Icke speaks specifically about the World Trade Center disaster, and the evidence shows he closely links to those appearing to be behind it, as shown throughout my document. Icke is closely connected to the former Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, in the Company's House records, and to the Rothschilds. And research shows that George Carey became the Archbishop of Canterbury in 1991 when David Icke made these predictions. Carey was preceded by Rowan Williams, taking the position in 2002 after the World Trade Center disaster had occurred. In June 2017, after the Pizzagate scandal had been exposed, and the apparent ritual took place at CERN at the Shiva statue representing creation and destruction, Donald Trump was positioned, and the same month as the Grenfell Tower fire that links to the Goldsmiths, Carey resigned from his last formal role. In December 2024, as the exposure continued, articles emerged of Carey fully resigning over a scandal of alleged sexual abuse within the church that had been apparently identified in an independent investigation by Maura Gibb. I suspect this was a cover to the wider issue of the torture and murder of children and how it connects to the blood of the children and the Collider technology. And we're going to come to, again, as I said, my theory shortly. A Company's House search shows an apparent record for George Carey connected to GC Caravan Maintenance Limited. Another Company's House record shows George Leonard Carey with a different date of birth connected to 5 companies, including Interfaith in Action and Christian Newspapers Weekly Limited, that was incorporated in 1975 and dissolved on the 27th of June 2017, less than 2 weeks after the relevant Grenfell Tower fire and dates of what we just discussed. Reverend Peter Allen Broadbent connects Christian Newspapers Weekly Limited to 20 companies, including London Diocesan Board of Finance and London Diocesan Fund, which is a fraudulent entity, and links throughout the research, including quickly to the Goldsmiths, as shown elsewhere in the document. This record for Carey also connects to United Learning Trust, that was incorporated in May 2002, and connects immediately to the fraud and closely to Donald Trump, Jimmy Savile, and CERN by Nabarro Nathanson on its incorporation document. Page 6 shows Dame Angela Rumbold connected to several companies, including Jet Set Club. Research shows that Rumbold was known for her pro-nuclear views and was founder of Women for the Bomb, Women for the Bomb, an organisation in 1992. As the Companies House register started to become electronic and the Catholic Church became a legal entity, she became the deputy chairman of the Conservative Party. Now, the Church of Satan is linked to nuclear weapons companies via my research. So we can only hazard a guess as to what they were potentially planning, and hopefully my exposure will prevent. Or they were hoping or setting that up as a deception for the right person to expose it. On the 8th of April 2025, articles emerged of the roof of the Jet Set Club in the Dominican Republic having collapsed, causing 230 fatalities. Remember, we've just mentioned the Jet Set Club. The building had been built in 1973, 2 years after the World Economic Forum began, and the year that the World Trade Center construction was completed, and when the SWIFT international transaction system started to be used in the international government fraud. Jet Set Center Limited features in the research of the possible infiltration of the royal family, and JET also refers to the joint European Taurus company that connects back into the fusion technology mentioned elsewhere in the document. Referring back to Moira Gibb, who did the supposedly independent investigation in relation to John Smythe and Justin Welby, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, research shows that she has a history in the social care system, and that she had also headed a serious case review into child abuse linked to South Bank International School. A Companies House search shows that Gibb, who did the investigation for both of these high-profile cases, is connected to 8 companies, including Hestia Housing and Support, that was incorporated as St Mungo Community Trust in 1986. The Mungo Foundation has featured in the research and connects quickly to Gerald McCann, the father of Madeleine McCann, and to the Prince and Princess of Wales Hospice, as shown elsewhere. Hestia Housing and Support connects immediately to the fraud with Stephen Lloyd and Bates, Wells and Braithwaite's on its incorporation document, making the immediate connection to the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. Again, P. Diddy and Sean Combs linked in to a child trafficking investigation. This is an immediate connection. In 1991, it also marked the year of the end of the Gulf War, and the relevant Terminator 2, as I've said, Judgment Day movie released that appears to make reference to the World Trade Center disaster in a scene on the bridge. If you haven't seen it, it's had 9/11 on it. And via its director, James Cameron, it links to Ingenious Film Partners, with Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP shown on page 40 of the incorporation document for the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. 1991 is also the year, as I've said, that relativistic heavy iron collider started to be built in New York, and that was activated in 2000, the year before the World Trade Center disaster, also in New York, as shown elsewhere. Now, New York makes critical connections to York in our country, all right, and how that ties in with Rome, and actually New York was named after York. And of course, you've got Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, becomes relevant, okay, in relation to the Roman side of things, how it then ties in with Northern Ireland, and fox hunting, which appears has been used as a cover to the hunting of children on estates, and the fox hunting being a cover for it. And this is why the horse trade and bloodstock trade then ties in for my evidence, and that being used to hide the blood of the children. And we're going to come to, as I keep saying, we're going to come to it. All evidence appears to show an organised criminal network with records converging primarily on certain topics. Let's get to David Icke bit of this. David Icke connects to several companies, but appears to have duplicate records on Companies House. One of these records connects to Phantom Self Limited, that was incorporated on the 4th of April 2016 as the Pizzagate scandal was being exposed, and the same year as the apparent CERN ritual. Finding history shows that its registered address was changed in February 2019 on the lead up to the COVID situation, and again on the 21st of September 2022 to care of PKF Smith Cooper of an address of Prospect House. This is not long after the Queen supposedly died, and I was continuing my investigation. It shows an application was made to strike the company from the register in 2023. As I continued my exposure, Jamie Alexandra Icke, the son, I believe, of David Icke, of an address in Isle of Wight is shown on the incorporation document. A separate search for PKF, that organisation, reveals PKF Smith Cooper Audit Limited. It was incorporated as Smith Cooper Services in 1996, 5 years before the World Trade Center. It is a criminal company, having been incorporated with the same companies as El Manor Freehold Limited, where my investigation began, making an immediate link to David Icke. The finding history shows that and he's linked to the intelligence agencies from various angles as well. The finding history shows that the registered address for his company, this company, was also changed on the 21st of September 2022, not long after the Queen's supposed death. John Paul Southall connects this company to East Staffordshire Citizens Advice Bureau, where it appears the incorporation document has been forged to cover original document information with Cooperative UK Limited. Citizens Advice companies appear to be centralised to the fraud. PKF companies make connections to the research of Kenneth Noy, the person who was convicted of the M25 murder, and there is absolutely massive evidence found via the research of Kenneth Noy in my document, linking him with the Freemasons, making critical connections to the agenda, and again the apparent blood of the tortured children via Kenneth Noy. John Christopher Taylor connects PKF Smith Cooper, this link that we talked about, to Shion Sale and Leaseback Sixth LLP, where they had been appointed in 2005 and resigned in 2023. The company had been incorporated as Victoria Film Partnership LLP in January 2002, before its name was changed after the World Trade Center disaster. Its name was changed to Close Film 2002 I can't read that. Was changed to Close Film Sale and Leaseback. Long story short, that links to the Satanic Temple again. All right, back into the intelligence agencies again. So that's another connection in to David Icke. That's a separate one than the connection I'd already found. This is now back into David Icke from the intelligence agencies from this angle. Okay, linking in with the Satanic Temple, United Kingdom. I'm not going to read. There's loads and loads more evidence. So, right. I think, well, looking at the evidence, if we go back to the infiltration of the Vatican from 1870, where the Freemasons appeared to have infiltrated the Vatican, that gave them the ability to destroy faith. All right, through the criminal network and the deception, and potentially use me to do that. Destroy faith, destroy moral conscience, and if they destroy faith, they bring a fear of death. If they bring a fear of an even bigger fear of death, then people will want to prolong their life. Okay? I suspect, and let's look at the I'll say this first and then we'll go to the Albert Pike letter, because that's very important. I suspect this is about a fear of death, and I think they have for a very long time established a method of using children's blood to live for a long time, potentially a very long time, and how they've then potentially infiltrated the religious establishments to make it seem as though the religious establishments, particularly Christianity. Now, last time I did a live, I was saying that Christianity is behind the blood of the children and how this links into. Now, we're going to look at the Albert Pike letter in a minute, which was written in 1871, the year after the infiltration of the Vatican. What better way to destroy faith than make you believe that faith is behind the crimes against the children and the blood of the children? There's no better way, is there, to destroy it? Now, I think ultimately we've got a fear of death because of a lack of faith. Such a fear of death that they are trying to prolong their lives by the sacrifice of the young, using the blood of the young. Now, this then ties, and I think this is centuries. I think we're talking about going way back before the Reformation. I think they identified the blood of the children extending the life. And I think this is how this is tying in with the vampire connection into Vlad the Impaler and everything else, or I suspect it based on the evidence that I've got in front of me. What we have are cowards running the world, it seems. So scared of death that they would rather take the life of an innocent to prolong their life, and them appearing to try and normalize that on Earth. And to do it, of course, you're talking vast amounts of money to get this level of control and the trafficking of the children involved in this, all right? And the amount of people that are probably involved in this, you're talking billions of pounds. So I think what they've done is set up a system to allow the laundering of the money from the innocents, use those innocents as the victims and the children of the innocents as the cattle, if you like, which is why through my document every now and then you'll see cow references, literally cows. They're talking about baby cows, all right? They're talking about things like that. Yeah, somebody's put boom Gary. Yeah, I think we're getting to the real crux in all of this. 100% the blood of the children is massive in this, and I think it is fear of death, infiltration of faith, blood of the children extending the life because of that fear, and how that is trying to be normalized. Now let's have a look how this ties in with the Albert Pike letter written to Mazzini. Just give me a minute to get this up. Shame we can't get more people on here, really. I just can't get this out to enough people. This is why the document's going to be so critical, and I just pray that that document is going to get to enough people. Now, we can see they're panicking. We can see they know they're in serious trouble. And I think you've got now probably the Knights Templar or people within the Knights Templar bloodline are trying to facilitate this. Now, they could be trying to bring about a fake resurrection in the hope that a fake resurrection will stop those people killing the children to extend their lives and make them realize they don't have to, because there is an eternal life after death. This is where I think that potentially the fake resurrection, and it's very possible through all of the evidence I've got that they were hoping to use me as a fake resurrection. Let me just get Albert Pike. Now, I think it's very possible that I'm going to be a bloodline importance in this, and possibly even bigger than that. I'm not saying it is the case, but when you get my document, you look at all of the evidence surrounding me, I think it's pretty huge. But let me just... When really the answer to bring the creator and the fear and to remove the faith is to remove the irrationality and the removal of moral conscience. The moral conscience brings you to the creator, which removes the fear, and therefore you're not as scared of dying. All right, that is what needs to happen. Now, they need to become, as I keep saying, they need to become the sacrifice. And I don't mean killing them. I don't mean causing any suffering. Through truth, through the exposure of the truth, to bring the creator through the moral conscience, the removal of the criminal system, and a system of transparency that will reinstill moral conscience in the creator and remove the fear of death, and therefore the necessity to sacrifice and use the blood of the children to try and extend life. And they will all be saved. Everyone will be saved through the truth. Every single person on this planet will be saved through the implementation of a transparent system, preventing the blood of the children and bringing in the moral conscience, and therefore I believe, the creator. Let me just have a look at this. We're going to look at the Albert Pike letter because it is so important in all of this. Where is it? Now, I know the Albert Pike letter is 100% relevant, okay, because there are Mazar companies, literally called Mazar, linked to Jeffrey Epstein very quickly throughout various other areas. And the Mazars company makes connections to a Garibaldi Mazzini company, which we know that's going to be Mazzini because Garibaldi was the head of the Italian military, okay? And that then ties in with the infiltration of the Vatican, right, in 1870 that we're going to be talking about. And within that Mazzini connection, Garibaldi Mazzini connection, you have an Italian earthquake company. Now, this is right by the evidence that I've told you about with the shoes, the skin of Madeleine McCann being worn by Prince Harry at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest, or around the time of Jeffrey Epstein's arrest. So I'm just trying to find it on my document. So these and the Mazar companies are at critical parts throughout my document. I've now found links to Waterman solicitors within the document, which was interesting. The Home Start companies, a critical Home Starter all the way through my research, and they link to my former school via a previous Knights Templar location. I've now done research in relation to the Rochdale grooming gang scandal, which is a deception linking into the Albert Pike letter again, everybody, all right? It's a massive part of this, leading to you to blame a skin color or a faith group instead of blaming the real issue, which is the deception in the system as to everything that's going on. They need a distraction. They're trying to create a distraction when really this needs to be the focus. The evidence that I'm giving to you needs to be the focus for the world, and this will end immediately. There's no way anyone should be trying to extend their life by killing children. I think most of us realize that is not what people do. And then you're going to come to, well, these aren't people. I suspect, I don't believe there's aliens. I think they're trying to pin it, which is why you've got the lizard mentioning and all of this other stuff going on with fake aliens. They're trying to pin it on something that's not human. I don't believe that's the case. I believe we're talking about humans that are trying to extend their life and have been for a very long period of time, and how they've infiltrated Christianity. And I think that's why you've got the blood being drunk of Jesus, and the bread is relating to the body of Christ. I think that's an infiltration of the Christian network as an ultimate plan, potentially to destroy Christianity. Let's face it, Christianity, what does Christianity do? It says love thy neighbor. If you were to cut to the chase in all of this, right? If we all treated everybody how we all wanted to be treated in a rational state of mind, we wouldn't be in this mess. In other words, in a rational state of mind, you don't want to be stolen from. You don't want to be abused. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want to be harmed. You don't want things stolen. You know, I already mentioned that. You don't want anything bad to happen to you. You therefore don't do it to anybody else. Generally, in a rational state of mind, everyone is like that. It's only when we're not thinking rationally, whether it be a ideology that removes that, whether it be drugs, alcohol, too tired, etc., being poisoned, radiated through food, water, air, cell towers, etc. Well, I'm just trying to find where I've written it, because I think it's really important that we read this. So I'm just searching through the document for the right bit. makes important connections. The Germans. Let me put, if I write, what do I know is within that part? Oh, we've got bloody turmoil. There you go. That won't be throughout the document much. In fact, the word bloody won't be, so let's put bloody, because I know that's in the document. Here we go. Yeah, only one record. That's it. That's easier. Okay, so the Albert Pike letter. Is that it? Oh, should I know? Oh, no, there's two bloodies in the document. That's interesting. Okay, let's read the Albert Pike letter. So this, let me just reiterate. In fact, I'll just read the whole thing because it's on here. I think it says it in there, does it? Yeah. So this was sent to me in 2024-ish, maybe before that as well. As a couple of people sent it to me, but it says the following is a letter that speculation claimed that Albert Pike wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871 regarding a conspiracy involving three world wars that were planned in an attempt to take over the world. The Pike letter to Mazzini was on display in the British Museum Library, London, until 1977, the year I was born. Mazzini was an Italian revolutionary leader in the mid-1800s, which links into the creation of Companies House, 1844, as well as the director of the Illuminati. Pike was a historic Masonic figure and a 33-degree Freemason, occultist, Grand Master, and creator of the southern jurisdiction of the Masonic Scottish Rite Order. Now, I know this ties back into the Reformation because the research of the Reformation in the 13th century, it started from Scotland. Okay, this is when we had the German company called Gutenberg's that started the centralization of the information control, when it started to print more rapidly than before, the religious documentation. Following are apparent extracts from the letter showing how the three world wars have been planned for many generations. The First World War must be, turn it that way, it's going to be easier. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia and of making the country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the other governments and in order to weaken the religions. The Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. The war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism is strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must be strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would then be restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Now, I think this is when they waited for me to start exposing the international government fraud. And this is why I think the international collaborative deception around the invasion of, we had the invasion of Crimea in 2014, but when Vladimir Putin then announced his special military operation against Ukraine in February 2022, well, that's when I was starting to make inquiries in Exborn Manor. And then as I continued to the exposure of the fraud on the 7th of October 2023 is when the supposed attacks happened in Israel by Hamas. And I've done the research around that. It's almost certainly staged. And then it was that same month when Companies House, for the first time ever, publicised proposals to verify some of the Companies House details, only some of them. And I think my exposure, and possibly because of who I am, exposed the Third World War element in all of this. And it says the Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. This links into the immigration agenda, okay, and also then into the Muslim grooming gangs. If you notice, it's a focus on Muslim grooming gangs, when actually predominantly white people within our government are the ones involved in this international criminal network and the blood of the children and the torturing of children, according to all the research. But they want you to believe it's about faith and about skin color. Okay. Now, I think just quickly on that point, Rochdale, Cyril Smith was the MP for Rochdale. Okay, until 19, it was either 1989, which is the year of the World Wide Web was created for CERN, or 1992 when the Companies House Register started to become electronic and the Catholic Church became a legal entity. He's linked to the crimes against children. Cyril Smith. I've done the research. It's there in my document. He's linked into the apparent threat of directed energy via cell towers and radars. And then you had George Galloway, because he was an MP for it. He's linked massively into the international government fraud. He's in my document now, saying a lot of the right things that you want to hear. He's part of the deception, everybody. All right? So we have Third World War, must be fomented by the taking advantage of the differences caused by the agent the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, in brackets, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, in brackets, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, other nations, once more divided on this issue, which is what we're seeing at the moment, isn't it? We're seeing divide between nations at the moment on a lot of stuff. But very fortunately, a lot of people are starting to unite over, such things such as the evidence that I'm producing and what others are doing. But nobody's really talking about this. This is the key, everyone. I believe this is the key. I believe this is the key of David. It's starting to appear that way, which links into the biblical side of things. It has the ability to bring heaven on earth. Meanwhile, other nations, once divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Now, it's interesting, they're trying to show that atheism isn't good here, so they're suggesting that there needs to be a belief about something. Then, everywhere, the citizens obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilizations, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or directions, anxious for an ideal, but without knowing where to render adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. Now, there's a lot of speculation around what Lucifer is. Some people have said that actually it's an inversion and Lucifer is Jesus. Lucifer is the second coming, or whatever. It goes on to say that the manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. So it appears as though their agenda is to destroy Christianity, or a big part of it. Now, what better way to do that than use me potentially to say, and it's not, they've set up loads of people. Remember, they've had a very long time to plan this. But it looks as though the blood of the children is relating to Christianity in a huge way. Well, what better way to destroy the Christian faith and therefore remove moral conscience by infiltrating the Christian faith, linking it with the blood of the children, the crimes against the children, as part of this Albert Pike letter, to take over the world as this criminal network, and also destroy moral conscience, and then bring in the blood of the children to extend life as a normality, which will obviously lead to absolute hell on earth. Okay, you cannot have a world where humanity is targeting the innocents, because you'll be left with no moral conscience. It will destroy everything. And remember, they're completely inverting moral conscience. You've got artificial intelligence is massively linked into this. One of the people behind artificial intelligence was actually educated at Sherborne in Dorset, where linked back into the child trafficking network, the leader of Qatar, the Israel attacks, Manchester Arena bombing, and massive, huge areas of the international government criminal network that I'm exposing. Now, obviously, me coming along and exposing all of this has the ability to literally change the future of our planet forever. Because what I'm saying is that they need to become the sacrifice through the truth. You will then have, I believe, faith will naturally come, as I keep saying, through the implementation of a system based on moral conscience, which will instill that moral conscience within humanity and bring in the creator and the removal of the fear of death. It will save the children, it will save humanity, it will save creation completely, basically, by implementing that system. And it's very simply resolved, everybody. Everybody thinking, well, how do you, what is it you do? How do you actually have a system that is based on transparency? Well, you have a financial system that is transparent, so the masses become the auditors, so that the leadership, it doesn't matter who the leaders are, humanity and creation is protected by the transparent financial system. That removes the ability to launder the money through the crimes and the criminal network, whether it be in relation to drugs, children, sex, conflicts, terrorism, etc. It removes that ability, you see. So it will become heaven on earth through that transparency. Of course, there'll be a lot of teething issues. There'll be a lot of things that need to be, creases need to be ironed out, etc. Oh, I'm going to stop talking. How long have I been on? 2.5 hours nearly. I'm going to have a break in a minute. I'm going to stop soon, but I'm going to answer some questions. So if you've got any questions or you want to comment, then please put them on there now. I'm not going to go to any previous comments because I then forget. So any new questions or comments, please put them on there now, and I'll try my best to answer them. Yeah, I don't eat any meat generally. I had stupidly had some meat in prison, but they wouldn't give me vegetarian. I asked for vegetarian. After a few days, they wouldn't give it to me. Someone's put the Umbrella Corporation. Someone's put, sorry, that was me, Waterman, just... Faith, read a document called Canon de l'Urex, reveals absolutely everything. Can humans digest meat? No, Rupert Lowe is completely compromised by the fraud. Do not trust him at all. I've done the research. He's linked. Somebody's put, is Rupert Lowe a good man? No, I'm not saying he's not a good man. He's compromised by the criminal network in place. He's not exposing the criminal network. You can only really trust anyone that is exposing what I'm exposing. I'm sorry to say. It's very obvious it is the key. Anyone that's not exposing it, you can't trust them. He's linked to criminal firearms companies, okay, that appears to be linking in with the hunting of the children. Almost immediately. Someone's put Sandra Bullock, Gary, German opera singer, mother, rocket scientist, grandfather, father. Thanks very much. I'll screenshot that. I haven't gone through any of my emails for a long time. I'm really sorry. I've just been trying to desperately wrap my head around everything, getting the evidence together, and I'm now at the stage where I'm sending the document out now, and I can sort of take my foot, well, I say take my foot off the accelerator. We need to change this, but I will be no, I haven't. Somebody else has put about Sandra Bullock. No, I haven't looked at Sandra Bullock, but I will, you know, I'm trying to think of something else I can do rather than just research now. Otherwise, I'll just be forever doing it. All right, I need to really think practically about what we need to do about this now. I will be thinking very carefully over the next few days, and I'll probably be tweaking the document a little bit because I can't live with all of those horrible spelling mistakes I've just seen. So I might just tweak a couple of bits of that, and add a couple of bits that looks as though I didn't add, and I'll be doing a lot more live streams as well, probably on, I don't think I can do them on TikTok yet. If I can get the numbers up on TikTok, then I'll be able to do some live streams on there, because then people can come on and talk. But I can always send a link to somebody to do it on YouTube. If somebody thinks they want to have a two-way conversation, and then we can possibly arrange that. But obviously I don't want to get drawn in to somebody that they might send in that's infiltrated in this. Connecting. So they're talking about Trump's taking Cuba now, are they? Okay. That's going to be very relative. Okay, I'll have a look at... No, look, someone's put Rupert is exposing them. They need to make you think they're exposing them and keep the laundering system in place for the blood of the children. Okay, they're not exposing the real issue, which is the Companies House fraud. What that does is make you trust them and sit back and watch and do nothing. That's the last thing you need to do. You need to be following my strategy based on my evidence. It's really that important. This is the key. I keep telling you, anyone that's not talking about the Companies House fraud, forget them. Forget them. Focus on the Companies House fraud and the strategy based on the Companies House fraud. Someone's put, thank you, Gary. Quick look on Wiki at her family history will show you. Thanks, Justine. Gary, you should make a Word link to your document. They're hacking. I can't. They're hacking the links. All right. If it's created through a website, a link, they can hack it through their side. You see, they can't change me sending a raw document to somebody on an email as easily. Anyway, that's why I'm doing it. They've already hacked multiple public document file links, so I can't do the public document file links. Can I report this to the fraud team you was on about, or is it pointless? Everybody should be making constant police reports, constant reports. I would do it on the online portals, which creates a reference number, and send it to me. You can email it to me. We can collate the reports. That will make them realise, oh dear, all right, because you are all being victimised. It's possible. Now, you've got this potential end of creation in all of this. Now, you've got two factors here. It appears as though we've got a group of people that are very worried about dying, which means they're not going to probably want to take themselves out, right? If they're extending their lives through the blood of the tortured children, then they may not want to, they're very unlikely going to want to destroy all of creation. But you could have a second group here, okay, that actually is looking at the crimes against the children, and they're thinking, well, we can't allow this to go on. The suffering is too horrendous. We're going to create an end of creation event because we cannot live with the children being tortured, abused, and etc. You could have that element of things. You've said, as I mentioned earlier, you could have somebody trying to think, well, how do we stop those that are involved in the blood of the children from doing it? Well, if we make them believe then it's not the end of their life when they die, to remove that fear through a fake resurrection, then they'll stop harming the children. You could have a group trying to set up that, and that could be where they were hoping I was going to come in. Who knows? It might have been a real resurrection. Who knows? But it's not required. What is required, I believe, is the implementation of moral conscience. That will bring the creator, as I keep saying, this is what I believe. And you've only got to look at my situation. Okay. I have gone against all of the fear. Okay. Because of, I have moral conscience as the foundation. Now, they made me feel I was going to die multiple times. They made me think my motorhome was going to be bombed. They set up an incident that made me think I was being poisoned by the Russians. I've had multiple events, and look, I'm still going, no matter what. I'm living in a tent. And that's because I have a faith. So whether they create a fake resurrection or a real resurrection or not, that nobody's going to believe anyway, it comes back to moral conscience. Founding, removal of rationality. Now, I haven't been compromised by irrationality as much as a lot of other people. I don't drink much. I don't take drugs. I'm fairly fit and healthy. I love nature. I'm not perfect. Of course I'm not perfect. I make mistakes all of the time, and I'm constantly saying, please forgive me for anything I'm thinking wrong, or, anything I may say wrong. But, you know, I keep bringing myself back to truth, transparency, moral conscience, the clarity, praying a lot for strength, psychological strength, physical strength. Pray that I'm being guided to guide me every day. I shouldn't be able to continue to function with this. I've lost practically everything. I'm by myself in a tent, in a wood, not knowing if I'm going to survive each day. And I'm still incredibly motivated, incredibly positive. You know, I was singing to myself earlier when I was doing my research. They must have thought I was mad where I was. But, you know, look, it's the key. Everything I'm doing is the key to resolve everything. Everything. So, yes, everybody should be making reports constantly. Make them realise it's over for them. I told you about the company's house. You'll be there forever researching. Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. You know, I could be doing this for 10 years. You've got over 5 million registered companies. I've got to think now. I've got to a point where the evidence is so strong, and we're getting to the real crux of this now, where I need to think about a strategy. Now, my strategy would be, look, everybody, I've done the evidence. Here it is. Here's the strategy, and leave it to the world now. Now, that's what I may do. I may decide that is the end of my journey now, and I need to wait for the world to be ready for me to be involved in a new system. And I wait for you and anyone that's innocent in this to act based on my document. And I go and I enjoy my life until that point, go camping in the middle of nowhere and just wait for someone to contact me, or wait for the signs to see that I can come in and be part of the new world. That's what I may do. That's what I may do. I've got to weigh up very carefully what I do now moving forward. Because strategically, if I was to do something and I'm taken out of the equation for whatever reason, then that's the end of any potential further exposure and any potential strategy moving forward. Am I in jail at this moment? No, I was in prison, including in the police station, for 12 days, from the 19th of September until the 1st of October. Rupert Lowe, PDF, someone's put. Exactly, Gary. Look over there. Meanwhile, the fraud is opposite. Exactly. Distraction is a huge part of this for them. Deception, distraction. Is Dorset part of the evil? Every part of the world is compromised by this. All of the councillors, MPs, heads of police. Of course, you will have people in these organisations that are obviously not involved in the crimes against the children. Let's pray. Let's pray that we haven't got 7 billion whatever people taking the blood of the children, because we're in serious trouble. It will be a lot of people. It will be a lot of people that are scared of death and have got involved in drugs, and then it's escalated, and then they've got into the blood of the children, and this whole thing, the blood of the children's prolonging their life. But yeah, this is everywhere, everybody. This is an international problem. When the call for a hero shall supply them. One Albert Pike, that's what he says. Yes. You know, I've had to think very carefully in all of this. How are they using me? Where do I position in all of this? Now, what I'm doing is exposing the entire world. So would they have positioned me to expose them literally to the crimes against children? Who knows? There is literally a company called Copyright Jesus that I've found that links to Elon Musk very, very quickly. It could be that they've somehow molded me, or someone within the system has molded me somehow to do this, potentially. I've had to consider that. But I don't know who that would be. I mean, I'm exposing everybody in this. It may be someone else that's within there somehow guiding me through this. But, you know, there's times where they would have had to have, as I keep saying, would have had to have controlled time, space around me and my thought process, all right, with some of the evidence that I've acquired. So then you come back to, well, you're then talking about a creator. You're talking about a divine intervention, because the creator is outside our understanding of space, time, and matter. And as far as we're aware, there's no, and I would much rather believe in a creator than believe that there is a man or a woman somewhere that's able to manipulate my mind, my space around me, my objects around me, what I'm doing, and time at the same time. Gary, can you look into Louise Jones Roberts, nightclub owner? Possibly, but I've been constantly researching, so I'll screenshot it, but I can't promise. Put out on your live stream companies you want your viewers to research for you. We can help you a little. I've been saying this for months. I've even done a document. Now, there are people sending lots of information to me, but I haven't got the time to even, because I'd have to verify it all in case it's compromised evidence. So I'd have to go through it all and check it anyway, which means I may as well do it myself. It's because what they'll potentially do, you see, is send people in to provide fake information, which I then publicise, and it ends up being completely wrong. Well, that would then undermine my evidence. You see, so this is the sort of thing I've got to be thinking about. But thank you very much for your offer in this. Published documents, print with print demand pounds. I haven't. No, I do normally check the emails, but I haven't had time because what I've had to do is get the document done. So then when I go through all of my emails, I can then attach that document so everyone's got it, rather than spending time over the last few weeks going through what everyone's sending me. Well, that's taking time away from the evidence that I need to put and where I need to guide my research. And thank goodness I've done that, because I'm now getting to the real issue in all of this, which I might not have got to if I'd have been distracted in another direction, you see. So that's why I haven't been replying to the emails. It's a lot easier for me to manage it, to just send the document out and at the same time read what everyone's put. So that's what I'll be doing over the next few days, as well as some live streams every now and then. Yeah, some people have got the document. Brilliant. That's great. Somebody's mentioning it. That's great. Someone's put, so someone is this the Mormons? I mean, whatever the history of it, it's, in terms of whoever's behind it, it's a little bit irrelevant. We've got the blood of tortured children massively linked into this research. That goes against moral conscience. We know moral conscience is from the Creator, and we need to resolve this. We cannot allow the suffering of the children, the most innocent of all. We must prevent this. I will be taken to my police department about CYM in the morning. Brilliant. Thanks, Stephanie. Obviously, bear in mind, they're not going to do anything. However, record it. Make sure it's documented, whether that be, if you're going in there, you video the phone call. If you're sending the evidence on a document, or you can't, well, you can do it on an online report. So you can mention it on a report, and that it creates, for most police forces, a reference police report, which you can then get a PDF of, that's a really good way of doing it, because you've got a receipt, but you can't attach a document, I believe, to that. So you'd have to just type some information in there. No video, no food in Cuba. Gary, this Louise Jones Roberts is linked to building 100 new homes and a lot of psyops being pushed on news recently. Thank you. Yeah, the biggest housing production companies, we've got one called Carrion. There's another one I came across there. Everything's been centralized. So all of the large companies are part of this, and it's linking in with the blood of the children. Now, this is why this is why you've got such a huge amount of children appearing to be trafficked, because if you think they've cottoned on and they've worked out a way where they can extend their life, you're talking charges of transfusions, for example, of the blood, a vast amount of money. They're going to need that money to do the transfusions, to get the blood through the adrenochrome network to extend their lives. Now, a load of people would have cottoned on to this and be trying to do the same, because they're all scared. They're all scared of dying. So this is going to be a huge problem. It's a massive problem. The blood side of it will be huge. Let's just pray that not too many people are actually involved in that side of things. Did you contact Emma from the Imagination podcast? She has survivors on. No, it's on my list of things to do. I haven't done that yet. What happened to my wife and children? I don't know what I presume you're meaning. So my wife made a comment, and you know it's within my document anyway, that she had bathed naked with the 2 children that she was nannying with. This was before I knew anything else, and I was a little bit concerned. I didn't think too much of it because of all of the other. Now she could have said that deliberately, all right? A lot of this information, it could be that she's a good person in this, and they've deliberately made me think certain things and joined certain dots because they knew who I was. Possibly. That's what I now have to consider with all of this. Now they've exposed themselves through certain things and information they gave me, but they've also tried to make me think that I'm someone relevant. All right, a lot in that process. Now they could be, you know, I've been thinking all along, massively compromised. They're all part of it. Like I said earlier at the beginning of this, I now have to consider that good people have infiltrated the criminal network and the crimes against the children and are trying to use me somehow to resolve, because they know who I am, to resolve all of this. That's what I have to think. Thoughts on Druids? Former Archbishop of Canterbury was one, and I believe the King and family are 2, but I could be wrong. I wouldn't like to comment. I don't know enough information about the Druids, I'm afraid. I don't know enough about the Druids. I haven't specifically gone into them. I've got the Pilgrim Society in there. You've got the Fabian Society. There is a mention of a Druid's altar within my document, and that leads to some interesting information. But I can't remember without looking at my document. I'm not going to worry about getting my document out at the moment because I want to finish up soon. But there is a Druid's altar at an important point in the document. Someone's put their Lord is Lucifer. Gary, we got your back, sending you an energy and love, light and empowering frequency heart. Thank you very much, Christy Bell. Appreciate it. They banged me up too for exposing them a week in. Look, I haven't been banged up at all. Now, they will be sending people. I'm not saying you're here to scare people off, all right? But a lot of people will be positioned to scare others into exposing it. I've got evidence that that's what's happening, okay? Nobody needs to fear, okay, arrests or anything like that. You need to do the right thing, all right? They have not once said anything about my evidence. And let's face it, if they're going to do anything about anybody exposing this, it'll be me, because I'm exposing the deep-rooted, with evidence, heart of all of this. Nothing has been done against me in relation to that. Nothing. So I hope you're not here positioned to scare people, all right? But many people are. Intelligence, love, and someone's put only Jesus can save you. Look, are you saying you sit back and do nothing with this evidence and with your moral conscience? This is exactly what they want you to believe. All right? Exactly what they want you to believe. Sit back. Jesus or the Creator is going to come and save us. That's not how the Creator works. You've been given moral conscience for a reason. You don't allow a child to be run over. If they're running into a road, you intervene. It's the same situation. Absolutely, I believe there's a Creator. Possibly, yes. Jesus, well, I believe all of the evidence says Jesus was a real person. All right? But people saying that are a huge problem. A huge problem. People need to be acting. Yeah, the meningitis. Someone's put, I find it strange that the meningitis thing started in Kent. Very interesting. I believe it will be the directed energy that is causing any health issues. I don't believe there's going to be any virus or anything like that. This is another element of this, okay? Another element of separating you from the Creator. They create illnesses and they create events that make it look like nature, such as cancer. I believe cancer, and there's a very good bit of evidence with the Kenneth Noy evidence. I believe cancer was deliberately implemented into humanity, right? Because you then think that it's the creator. Well, how can there be a creator? Why would a creator give everybody cancer? Why would the creator give cancer to a child, the most innocent? I believe they're creating cancer, right, as part of the agenda. Kenneth Noy, the evidence is massive. When he was in court, he shouted, according to the research, to all of the people in the trial, "I hope you all die of cancer." Now, he is linked into the evidence that I've got that is suggesting they implemented cancer deliberately into the network. He's massively linked into the Freemasons and linked into the religious establishments and into the blood of the children. See how this all ties in, you see? And they get you to believe that there's earthquakes that are killing people, that there are where they're manipulating it, probably. Remember, I've got the evidence linking in with the collider technology. We have to consider that the earthquakes are all being caused by them, because that separates you from the creator, distances you, and makes you fear death. This is why the space side of things is very relevant. All right? To make you think you're less significant, make you believe the universe is massive when possibly we are the center of everything and are far more special than you were ever meant to believe as part of the deception. That, I believe, is quite possible based on all of this. And of course, the alien invasion, the alien deception, that also separates you from the creator, because that makes you think, well, the universe is big and we're not the only ones, and therefore we're not very important. Whereas I believe you are incredibly important. The innocents among you, I believe, are going to be far more important than you ever realized. Evil is revealing itself on the streets, on TV, television. I've researched the television, by the way, massively relevant. The history of television is incredibly important, and that links back in with the bloodstock trade and the horse trade as well. So you're right, television was deliberately put there as part of this plan against all of humanity. The research we mentioned earlier, we mentioned Helios, the Helios building in at the BBC studios. They actually put a statue of Helios, okay, in the middle of the courtyard at the old main BBC studios. Helios is a Greek god, and the reason they put there, I can't remember the exact wording, it was to represent the illumination of the radiation of the BBC upon the world. They used the word radiation. I mean, that's practically telling you, are they using the televisions to radiate you all? Now, that could be a euphemism as a deception through the television. To radiate deception, it could be physically harm you. We know you've got the ability to use subliminal messages within televisions. You just flicker an image. You can control somebody, program them by flickering an image. For example, saying, vote Donald Trump, or take blood, harm a child. Now, a lot of the events that have happened, terrorist events, very likely, I suspect, they programmed individuals to do it, or the whole event is a deception. That's another element. But every element of terror, every terrorist incident that I have looked at links to the same companies and the same fraud. Even the suspects or defendants for those terrorist events link back in to the organizations of where those events relate to. And the great example of that is the Lockerbie bombing, where one of the suspects links back into Pan Am American Airways, which links to Jeffrey Epstein and the Rockefellers. So it's all a deception, everybody. Now, if they are really carrying out those events and killing people, which we have to presume they are, then we're talking serious evil here. We're talking serious evil. And this is where I think the international conflict element of this is so important, because the international conflict deception, collaborative deception, gives them the ability to take children from those conflicts. And I believe that if it's not a deception, if these explosions and these conflicts are really happening, then I believe the taking of the children is a massive part of that, a collaborative taking of the children through those conflicts, and then using it obviously as a laundering system to launder through the defense contracts through governments as well, which then feeds back into the blood of the children and funds the blood of the children. You see, we've got a huge problem here, guys. Whichever way you look at this, it's massive, isn't it? And we are living in the most incredible time probably ever in human history, I believe. This probably is, because this is going to go one way or another. We're either going to see potentially the end of all of creation, or we're going to see heaven on earth. And I don't believe that heaven on earth needs to be brought through the end of all of creation, which is what potentially some people appear to be aiming towards, thinking that's what they need to do. Now, they could also be being deceived through Scripture. Scripture is almost certainly going to have been infiltrated. Well, we know it has. It's been rewritten. The Bible, for example, how many times has it been rewritten? Much of it would have been infiltrated by this criminal network. Pay all your taxes unto Caesar, no matter what, basically. Of course, the Creator would not say pay for the blood of the tortured children. There's no way the Creator would say that, because it goes against moral conscience, which we've already been told. So it's an infiltration. It doesn't make sense. There's no way the Creator would say keep paying taxes, but that's what it says within there, so we're led to believe. How can I get my email to you privately? Email me. I'll tell you it in a minute. If you get a pen, I'll give you my email in a moment. If everyone gets a pen, just give it a couple of minutes and then you can send me an email. How many key positions are overseen by their crew? So how does the evidence work if the police, courts, etc. are bent? It's depressing. If this document goes to the hands of the beast. Well, there's no other way around it, because what we need to do is work on their moral conscience. Now, I believe even within them, there's a chance of there's a good chance. I won't say good chance. There's a chance of converting them into actually realizing where they're going wrong in this. And I think that's where we need to work on this, because I believe everyone will have that inherent within them through creation of, well, yeah, actually, I don't want to be stolen from, and I don't want to be hurt, but I'm scared of dying. But what if I do use moral conscience? Will that make me not fear? And what if Gary's right about this? There'll be a lot of that sort of thinking going on, even with people involved in this side of things. So now, ultimately, my strategy will be what resolve this. Now, the exposure itself, because it's so powerful, has the ability to whittle down through moral conscience so that there's nobody left to be involved in the criminal network. And it just evolves into the exposure and evolves into a new system of transparency. That's possible. We can't rely on that. So that's why I've built a strategy that everyone should be doing within that document, which includes things like making police reports, sending emails, recording it. Ultimately, citizens' arrests need to start taking place with certain individuals, and that should be the solicitors. If I was going to pick any group of all, it needs to be the solicitors. Need to be taken out of action, not harmed in any way, arrested by the citizens, pressure applied to the system, to the police to remove them and take them into custody. And that a continuous process of those citizens' arrests taking place. Doesn't mean hurting them, doesn't mean even holding them. You don't even need to hold on to them. You don't even need to go into their personal space. It's all about just saying the words and then calling the police and exposing the whole lot as you're doing it. Stick to what you're doing, keep exposing, out of sight, and keep safe, Gary. Thanks, Derek. Yeah, I've got to think very carefully about what I do. We're not seeing the right changes enough, so I need to think about what I might be able to do practically. Haven't received document, Gary. Has it been sent? I've started sending it out. Obviously, you haven't got it yet. It's just going to take time. But it started to go out. But I'm just going to tweak it a little bit over the next couple of days, do some lives, do a nice walk or something just to have a break. Someone's put plasma is the key to life research. Well, there you go. Well, that then links back in with the blood of the children then, doesn't it? So they believe, and it probably does extend life, and it may well bring immortality. But that goes directly against the Creator. It goes against moral conscience. No matter what way you look at this, you cannot harm the innocent to prolong your life. You cannot do that. Yes, I doubt the creator would create us to infect each other. Exactly. I've researched the blood infection scandal, by the way, as well. That's in my document. Very relevant in all of this as well. In the 1780s, 70s and 80s. Massively part of this. Oh, my email address. Right, sorry. So it's Gary the Truth Sets Us Free at gmail.com. Gary with one R, the Truth Sets Us Free at gmail.com. I'll just say that again in a second. Gary with one R, the Truth Sets Us Free at gmail.com. Gary with one R, the Truth Sets Us Free at gmail.com. Hopefully everyone's got that. We are humans from light, man, manifested bodies. We are energy, frequency, vibration, a lot of people say we are the gods. I don't believe if we try and say we are the gods, okay, then we're opening ourselves up to serious problems. These people may believe they are gods, which believes that they then believe that they are able to do what they're doing to humanity. We cannot fall into that trap, right? There has to be, right, because we're fallible. We make mistakes. We're tempted by sin. We become corrupted. We cannot start thinking we are the gods, I believe. That will lead to disaster. And it doesn't make sense, because then what you're saying, you can't say you're the creator. You didn't create the earth, did you? As far as you know. There's got to be something created us, something created the earth. Whether you believe it's a creator or not, you've got to realise that the moral conscience came from somewhere. And if we had that moral conscience and literally the foundation and we all stuck to it, then we wouldn't be in this situation. And the world would be practically heaven and earth. Okay? Thus, you would not have fear. Every disaster that's been caused by them. Yeah, I think you're right, Vanessa. I think you're right. Or the illusion of it, again, we have to consider, is a lot of this an illusion of a disaster to fit their agenda as well? But we can't say that's the case. We have to consider what's all real. Set me up and sent me to jail to try and scare me, just the same as what happened to you guys in Scotland. Yeah, I mean that was a trap. It was actually sort of partly a trap that I set, not knowing whether it would assist or not. So I didn't comply to the Road Traffic Act, and I knew there was a chance that I might be stopped. And then I knew in my mind, if that happens, I'm going to use that to actually expose them even further. And it did. And it was well worth losing my motorhome. I lost £20,000, around £20,000. And when I look at it now, the evidence that I acquired through it, it was worth every penny, because I've gone through the system, exposed the entire system through that, which just really was the icing on the cake in all of this, to be honest with you, or a big part of the icing on the cake. Good and evil garden. What do you choose? Definitely not evil. Helios is the name for sun. Oh, that's interesting. Didn't know that. Yeah, there's a lot of analogies with, there's a movie come out called Hail Mary or something with, I can't remember his name. It's about the dying sun. Very well could be an analogy to the dying son of Christ, or an analogy to what's going on at the moment with all of this. And it seems as though they want to kill or eliminate potentially the sun. Could be what a lot of this is about with the analogy. It could be what the whole greenhouse effect element of this in all of this is them trying to reflect the sun. Was that a symbolic side of things to remove the sun, as in remove Christianity and bring in hell on earth, if you like, or remove moral conscience, or set that all up for the right person to use that as a symbology to expose the truth? Who knows? But it's very relevant when you look at Sasha Stone. His first album, he links to the Vatican, Cover the Sun. That was the name of his first album. Now, of course, that then links into vampirism, doesn't it? With this whole thought process that they've instilled that vampires, whether real or not, have to hide from the sun. Let the eye be single, and thy whole body with the light is the pineal gland. Yeah, the pineal gland is probably very relevant in all of this with the cerebral. Oh my goodness, fluid. What's it called? Cerebral fluid, and it runs down your 33 vertebrae or something, doesn't it? But that apparently, yeah, 33 is a big number, as we know in all of this, and how it relates to Christ as well, and that links in with the Freemasons. Number 33, very relevant. I don't know. I'm really not the expert on all of the symbology, so it's probably not best I go down there. Out of Shadows documentary. Pinecone Monument. Oh. That's interesting that you put Pinecone Monument. I won't say why, in case it compromises somebody, but that's very, very personal and relevant to my journey, if you like, and the evidence in relation to this. We are having heaven on earth. We are going to manifest it. I can tell you now, there's signs all the way through my research that they know the game's up, that they know, and it may be that they've been waiting for me to do something, and that's going to change things. And it looks as though they were either going to, and they may still, trying to make me believe that they were just going to imprison me without a fair trial, and that they might lock me up for 5 years or so. That may still be the plan. I don't know, but it certainly looks as though they were timing things to make me believe that. You had David Lammy was positioned as the Justice Secretary in September 2025, literally the same month that they were staging my arrest. Now, I don't think they realised what I was going to do through that prison service. The fact that I would shout to all of the prisoners to try and stay alive, who I was, what I was exposing, that the police were involved, and that I wanted to come amongst them to be able to talk to them, and saying that they were all there illegally. I don't think they expected that. Now that may have been what kept me alive. Prior to me going into the prison, it looks as though they may have tried getting me to kill myself, right, by sending a guy into the cell with me who had scars all over his head, who had a chain around his neck with a crucifix, and he gave me a mint within the cell. This was just prior to the criminal hearing where they unlawfully committed me to prison, completely unlawfully. The judge was linked to the Ingenious Film Partner Company, which links to the Royal Foundation of the Prince and Princess of Wales. And this person came into the cell, had a cord around their neck with a crucifix, a packet of mints, offered me a mint. Now, at the time, I wasn't even thinking about whether they were poisoned or not, even though he just told me he was he's a recovered drug addict. And I think this was all staged, because you would not have had, well, I know it was staged, you would not have had somebody put in the cell with me with a neck chain, well, put in the cell anyway, but with a neck chain and with pills on them. They wouldn't have been allowed them, because you get searched thoroughly. You get strip searched every time you go into the prison. Okay, I know that because it happened to me every single time where I got moved. And you get searched when you go from your cell. So he would not have been allowed them. So he was positioned to say what he said and offer me a pill, which a mint, I thought it was a mint, put it in my mouth, realised it was tasting funny after a few minutes, discreetly spat it into a cup without him seeing. I then went to the court case. They all might have thought he's had this pill that's going to kill him. Why is he not dying? This man is somebody special. Who knows? That was, I believe, some sort of divine intervention. There's been divine interventions all the way through this with me. All the way through this. And I'm documenting some of them. Some things you can't explain unless it's the creator. Or, as I've said, space-time and my mind being manipulated. It's just mind-blowing, some of the things. and how I've, you know, oh my goodness, just what a journey. What a journey it's been. It's just been incredible. And I'm still smiling, you know, even though I don't know if I'm going to live tomorrow. I don't know if they're going to kill me. I don't know if they're going to arrest me, imprison me, make me look like a fake sacrifice, murder me, and then try and fake resurrect me. I still find it just incredible, the whole experience. It's not been easy. Don't get me wrong. It's been the most challenging time in my life. Of course it has. It's going to be over soon, Gary. We have help from a higher source galactic. Yeah, so a lot of people are saying, I don't believe that's the case. Don't believe that's the case. I'm actually ready to have no fear. We should be holding these people in utter contempt. Absolutely. Well done, Elysium. Yeah, 100%. You should be out now going and arresting the solicitors. 100%. You've only got to say words to them. It's so... You can read it. It's in my document. I've even put a script. So you literally... It couldn't be... You've just literally got to read a script and someone's got to hold a camera. It's so simple. And I believe that will trigger heaven on earth. And it won't take long. He did not say pay taxes. He asked for the coin, and basically Caesar's face with plasters on it. Basically, literally saying it belongs to him and we are given the right to use it temporarily. Okay. It's only because I spoke with a Christian and a couple actually, and they've all says no. You must. In fact, I'm sure I've seen a bit within the Bible where it does say you have to pay your taxes and to your. I'm sure it says. And as soon as I read it, I was like, well, that's fake. There's no way that's the Creator. No way. I've read it within the Bible online. I can't remember what part it is. That was a bit. And then when I've spoken to people, they've said it says pay all taxes unto Caesar. But then when I looked, there was another bit that I actually read myself. And it was just like, well, that's clearly been input. That's clearly, which obviously creates a huge problem. Because as soon as a part of it is corrupted, we have to consider that a lot of it has been corrupted. We have to consider that the bloodline of Christ remained. And potentially, the bloodline of Christ is the second coming in this, potentially. The bloodline of Christ, and potentially the final bloodline of Christ, could be the second coming in all of this. We have to consider that crucifixion didn't happen. Something must be done. If we can stop them, we can live too. Yeah, absolutely, Phyllis. Something must be done, and it can be done. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't 100% believe that this can be turned around very easily, actually. You know, you've only got to look at me, what I've done by myself. The changes that I've created through the exposure is just, it's massive. And all it takes is a few of you to actually start implementing my strategy, and it won't take many at all. I reckon you're talking a few attempted arrests. And what I mean by an attempt is you go there, say the words, please turn up, they don't do anything, you come away, you expose the video. I think that in itself will create huge changes in this system and possibly tip it into the realm of a new earth. Sound's gone, someone's put, oh, I haven't got my, oh, sugar. Oh no. I've only just seen these comments. Muffled. Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Oh, I had my little pinky was under the, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Hopefully it wasn't for too long. I've just been chatting away to myself. I'm gonna wrap it up. I've been over 3 hours now, but I will be doing more live streams, and what I'm going to be doing is trying to pick some key bits of the evidence, you know, really in the hope that it gets you thinking. If you're not already, and of course when you have the document you'll be able to verify it anyway, but really trying to get the innocent amongst you to show you the amount of work that's gone into this, and to show you that what I'm saying is true, which you can verify through this, and really try and get you to start doing something. You know, I can't be the only one that's willing to go and do something. If I didn't have the arrest warrant, potentially for not turning up at court, then I would 100% be going to arrest them. And if you're not aware of what happened there, I had loads of correspondence after I left prison about the court case in relation to the traffic side of things. They had not interviewed me despite repeated requests for them to interview me regarding me disabling a cell tower, of which I think I'm the only person on earth that has actually been disabled a cell tower publicly. They have still not interviewed me over it. Anyway, all of this correspondence occurred. It was very obvious they were refusing to give me any information whatsoever. Gave me a court date for the 18th of November. 1 and 8 equals 9. That's 9/11, the date of 9/11, the World Trade Center. That's not a coincidence, everybody. The same exact day that they implemented the verification of digital verification of directors on Companies House, which is everything I've been exposing. It's no coincidence. They timed it on that exact day. So of course I had to make a decision. Well, do I sorry. Oh, no, coming. Do I risk somebody taking me out on the way to the court, or do I not turn up and continue the exposure? They then offered me a voluntary opportunity to go in on another court date, and they refused to answer any of my questions again. Very relevant. So I didn't turn up at court, and I've heard nothing since. So of course I don't know if there's an arrest warrant. Now they will of course potentially use that to their advantage if they really push comes to shove and they really needed to. So if I was to go and do an arrest now and I get taken out there and then that's the end of me, in terms of that's the end of the evidence, and there's nothing else I can do to save humanity and the children in this. So I've got to think very tactically and strategically, but there's no reason all of you could not be now going out and be doing what I would have been doing. Absolutely no reason. And in fact, I think you need to prove to the people that are good within the system that you're willing to do something, because otherwise they may think that all of you don't care about the children, you're not doing anything, and therefore you deserve to be taken out anyway. And those people that are set on ending creation may well end creation, and all of us, because they can't allow the suffering of the children, and they just see that everybody's happy to let it go on. They may think, well, everyone deserves to be taken out anyway. There's no point in allowing everything to carry on. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm sorry I haven't answered probably most of the questions. Thanks very much. I'll try and go live in the next few days. I won't set a time because it gives them time to change things, potentially. And when I did a live, and you probably don't know where, some of you might not know about this, I advertised a live, and they arranged, now this is interesting, somebody arranged for somebody to be firing shotguns right by my tent. Somebody had hung a cloth, or they wanted me to make me think this was the case, but too coincidental. They saw my tent. There was a cloth hung by the tree, in the tree line, to let them know where my tent was, and they were firing loads of shotguns right by my tent whilst I was doing the live stream. Now I think that was done, I'm always certain that was done deliberately. So but I will probably do live streams over the next few days, more than I have been, and yeah, and just pray that you guys are going to be doing something whilst I think about whether I do something or not, or whether I just I've done my bit and I wait for the world to wake up with that evidence. It'd be nice to just have a break for a bit, go for a nice walk, find some nice views, take a nice picnic, enjoy nature. I saw a little mouse earlier. It was lovely, and it was a mouse, it wasn't a rat, and he'd gone into the front of my tent. When I got back, it was so nice seeing him. And yeah, I just love nature so much. Anyway, I'll leave you to it. Thanks very much. Really appreciate anyone that's supporting me, all of the innocence in this. You know, you're going to be what is required to turn this round. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it all myself, in terms of, you know, changing this practically with practically doing something, I think it's going to be down to you guys, to be honest with you. But we'll see what comes to me. We'll see what ideas I have, see where I'm being guided, and what my next move is. But thank you so much, all of you. Really appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.